All set. Terry, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. Mr. Vice President.
Motion recess, executive session, reconvene in open session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to ratify the hiring of Kevin P. Partridge as interim fire chief effective June 10th, 2021.
Second.
A motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Motion to seal the executive session minutes pursuant to section 4246(7) of Rhode Island General Law.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, excellent.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
is there still a delay on the voting before we get
Yes.
started? There
Yes,
is
there
still a
is.
delay. Okay, I'll use my thumb.
Yep, I saw that earlier. Thank you.
Not in the room.
Okay. So sorry for the delay, everybody. Executive session took us a little bit longer to get through than anticipated, but we got through it. So we're going to move on to number 2, public hearing of budget memorandum of finance director through town administrator in reference to budget ordinance, COVID funds.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Second.
We have a motion to second to receive said memorandum. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
Motion to add information to page 70, lines 32 through 37.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to add information to page 70, lines 37 through 32.
No, lines 32 through
32 through 37. I said it backwards.
You did.
I love it when you keep me in line.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
I didn't finish.
Okay. You're going to do the whole thing together?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So motion to add information to page 70, lines 32 through 37. Section 1D, COVID relief funds for the town and school department. The town expects to receive approximately $4.7 million of funding under the American Rescue Plan. This funding shall be placed in a separate special revenue fund until such time that the town council determines its use under federal and state guidelines. The school department expects to receive approximately $957,000 of ESSER funding, which must be obligated by September 2023. The ESSER fund shall be in place in a grant fund until such time as the school department determines its use under federal and state guidelines.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to what Mr. Vice President's motion just was. Sean, do you want to explain that real quick so everyone's clear on it, especially the public?
I'm going to let Mark do it because I
Oh,
think
Mark.
he's spent countless hours on meetings about this.
Just so, Mark, just a brief overview of what Tom just said so that there's everyone has an understanding, or during the public session, maybe public hearing, maybe somebody can ask a question if they're not sure.
Sure. Part of the president's plan, the American Rescue Plan, the municipalities are receiving money. At this point, it's really undetermined the amount. These are the best estimates. On the municipal side, we're receiving approximately 4.7 million, and the regulations are not out yet. So the best way to handle this money is to put it in a special revenue fund. And when all the regulations come out, and the council will have the decision as to how to spend these funds. Same thing on the school department. The amount is not identified at this point. It's close, but we really have no final number. And it's best to handle that in the grant fund until the regs come out. And this wording identifies that we are going to receive some federal money from the American Rescue Plan.
Okay, and these are the best estimates that you've been given so far, and that could very well change. That could be a fluid number. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that because, sometimes when you throw numbers out there, it sticks in people's minds. And, well, you said this, that number is fluid. And the uses of those funds eventually, at some point, it's one-time money over several years, to my understanding. The uses of those are still yet to be determined. That's not out. So that's why we're just doing this in preparation for those funds and, obviously being transparent about it. So,
Correct.
Sean?
I just wanted to use the transparent word. As Mark and I were reviewing the financial statements and the budget, our goal is to make sure that they are as transparent as possible. And we wanted to make certain that when the budget ordinance was adopted, that these dollars were recognized in the ordinance. And that way, if one of our residents went back, they would know at least today what we thought the situation was, and that we were fully transparent in making certain people do how much money we thought we were getting and why we were sort of setting it aside right now. And as Mark explained, and as you explained, until those regulations are clear and we know how those funds could be used. But we didn't want anyone to think that, we weren't aware or that anything was being, shaded in some part of the Treasury where it was unknown. So I'd just like to thank the council for considering this motion and continuing to support, disclosure of financial information.
Yeah, and once it's determined and the guidelines are set, the criteria is set on what, there may be some type of restrictions, then Sean will bring that forward at the appropriate time. But in the meantime, when the money shows up, it'll go in a fund. It'll probably make some money, I guess. I don't know. And then the council determine that this money will eventually create a structural deficit. So that's why we need to be very cautious on how we proceed and use it. Okay. Excellent. Any questions, comments? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Excellent. So number 3, continued from May 26, 2021 special meeting. Public hearing is advertised. The public hearing remains open. In order to the town of Middletown, second reading, in order to amendment to the ordinances of the town of Middletown, general fund, parks and recreation fund, sewer fund, refuse and recycling fund, appropriating revenues for the fiscal year July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022.
Okay.
Okay, so the public hearing remains open. Okay. We don't need a motion for that, do we? No, it's already still open. Okay, so I know tonight, Karen, at any time somebody raises their hand and wants to speak, if you could just kind of make me aware and it will get them right in and listen to the input. In the meantime, I know there's a couple of presentations. I know Council Flynn has a presentation. I know Councilor Toronto has a presentation. So I would ask that we still have an agenda to get through. I know that your information is important to you and could be important to us as well. So I ask that we do that in a timely fashion, okay? Councilor Flynn.
Okay, thank you. So Wendy, can you put up the May 19th slide for me? Page 3 that I sent right after the PowerPoint. And while she's getting that, just to remind everybody that this has been an extraordinarily data-driven budget, I think, this time around. And, we've met on, May 8th and on May 17th, the beginning of our regularly scheduled May 19th, which is when this slide appeared, because as we were collecting the documents and the data and department head reports, I'm trying to think, this is, we're just getting out of COVID. I don't even think we were getting out of COVID when we first started getting our first binders on budget. And it's revaluation year. How are we going to save the taxpayers money? And I think our town administrator responded admirably by providing this slide right here, because this was really the expenses that we could look at for reductions. And with all the different line items and all the different departments, this really was a godsend as to where to focus. So I want to thank Mr. Brown for taking the time to make it succinct for the council members. We also met after the 8th, the 17th, and the 19th on the 26th, and we got that proposal to shift commercial taxes to residential, which was sort of brand new information. That was just about a week and a half ago, and we got, questions went out and answers have been coming since then. So I'm really feeling like there has been limited time to digest a lot of the information. So I'm going to stick to this slide primarily, I guess, and try to focus and present some information to, everybody, including the public. So if you can start the PowerPoint for me, Wendy. And as I said, as she's getting that up, the overriding thought that I did bring in front of the council, and that I reminded myself as I was pouring through the documents in the upper right-hand corner, that, COVID and the revaluation taxpayer impact is real. I think that we have a lot of people that are suffering, and we have challenged Middletown taxpayers, as I've highlighted. There are people, maybe not people on the council, but a lot of people, they couldn't pay their rent or make their mortgage payment. They had their kids all of a sudden come home from school and had to leave their work, or they started working from home and, had to deal with kids at home. And, then maybe somebody in the house got sick with COVID. I mean, all of these stressors were a time, emotional, and financial burden. So, that is something that I think that, as I said before, we really need to keep in mind and in the forefront. And so I'm responding in this PowerPoint to that prior slide with the things to focus on where we can save our taxpayers money, or what things that could be considered. And if you can go to the next slide, Wendy, I did email a draft of this to the council Saturday night, so that this wouldn't be a total surprise. Oh, you jumped a couple. One more back. And, I've talked to, as the president reminded people or suggested to people, reach out, talk to Sean, talk to counselors, get some perspective. And, I come away from that with, there's always a case to be made to spend money. There's always something to be done. But in this environment, if there's a glimmer of a case to be made not to spend money, it's our responsibility to consider that case. Next slide, please. So one of the things that came up in that slide was this thing called structural deficit. And so I want to cover that a little bit just to make sure that we're clear and the public's clear. So we have some big obligations that are new to Middletown that, of course, start this year, financial obligations. The police department, from their contractual negotiation, they are needing $300,000 a year starting this year. So, and it's a good thing, very savvy of, our town administrator to restructure the cash flow so that, and makes our police department very happy. They're getting more now in pay and cash and less in pension later. So this was a good exchange, but we do have to cover that obligation. The fire department, they are going to be needing $600,000 a year. Now, this expansion, the residents asked for this, council responded, it's a good thing. And even better, these SAFER grants are going to pay for the first 3 years. I know, we've covered this. I just want to remind people, because it's very creative how, Mr. Brown, our administrator, came up with how to collect that money over time so that our taxpayers aren't all of a sudden bombarded with the $600,000 obligation. So the next slide I'm going to show you in just a moment, it has some options to minimize what's going to happen after that 3 years that the SAFER grant is going to pay for. And one of the philosophical, I'll cover it when we get to the slide, but philosophically, collect lower amounts this year and higher amounts in the upcoming years. It gives the town, it gives people who are suffering from COVID and the revaluation a little time to absorb that. And it gives the town time to maybe create some new revenue streams and reduce spending. And this could save us this year up to $170,000. Can you go to the next slide, please? So the very top section where you see the 170,000s all highlighted, this is the proposal, and very creative, that our administrator presented to the town council. And this is what it's doing. 2022 is the fiscal year that we're talking about right now. So the premise is to increase the real estate taxes by $170,000 and use that money for roads or for what we need to use it for that's not operational, one-time expenses. And then in the next year, 2023, the taxpayer, has already, they're used to paying $170,000. That was the burden year one. And so the proposal is to tax them another $170,000. So even though the second year, 2023, the tax increase is only $170,000, you've essentially accumulated $340,000 that can be spent on roads or other non-operational things. In 2024, you do the same thing. You're only increasing taxes by that $170,000, but because of the accumulation of the 2 prior years, you're actually collecting $510,000 to spend on, again, something non-operational. You can't do it on recurring expenses because where are you going to get it next time? So now the 4th year, 2025, you're only increasing $170,000 each year, but the accumulation is now giving you $680,000, and you're not spending it on roads. This is your obligation to the fire department. Starts in 2025 from the taxpayers' real estate taxes. So the second section in the middle is, in conversation, we did discuss that, the bare minimum that we really need to have to meet that obligation is $600,000. So if you do the same thing with $150,000 each year, you will reach that goal of $600,000 and be able to meet your obligation to the firefighters. And what I am suggesting after playing with numbers a little bit is, with less tax burden on the taxpayer this year, perhaps we could consider a lower amount than $170,000 or even $150,000. And Sean confirmed we can come up with any amount that we are comfortable with and that our taxpayers are comfortable with. It can be reduced, and I used as an example $75,000 for the first year. And then the next year, you increase it a little bit more because, we're still coming out of COVID. We've had the revaluation, and you increase it to $125,000. So your accumulated in that second year is $200,000 that you get to spend on roads or, whatever your non-operational is. In the third year, you collect your increase in taxes goes up again, because remember, you didn't increase your taxes in 2022, but $75,000, not $170,000. So in the third year, you just increase $170,000, which would have been the same as the third year in the original proposal. And then you've collected $370,000 to, do some non-operational roads or something. And then in the fourth year, to 2025, you up it again and you collect $230,000 to meet your $600,000 minimum to pay the firefighters. And you have taken a little bit off of 2022 to give the taxpayers a break in a tough year, and you spread it out over the next 3 years. And again, in that time, there may be opportunities for the town to have to find other tax revenues, for the taxpayer to absorb revaluation and COVID impact. And it's a chance to give our economy a chance to get back and expand. So this is something that, do any of the counselors have questions on this concept?
Any
Okay,
questions of any counselors? No, ma'am.
All right. So I, just put this on your list, and, Sean, you can help us out afterwards where, what line item and what thought that is. I just saw the motions that came in and just didn't know where to categorize some of these. And that would save, if we use the $75,000, we would save the taxpayer this year $95,000. Next slide, please. Let's see. So the next issue, and again, this is all from that slide from May 19th. These are the areas that the administrator said that to reduce municipal expenses, this is where we can look. So one of the proposals is to expand the building department by another full-time employee at a cost of $92,000. And I'm pointing out after, and this is part of the data request that we have been making over the last month. And this data came in all on just June 2nd from the finance department. Thank you, Mark and staff and Sean. So the department vacancies have been the whole last year, and they're causing a work backlog, as you would expect. And I'm looking at this, a work backlog is a short-term problem. A full-time permanent employee is a long-term solution and financial obligation to our taxpayers. And that's a mismatch. The vacancies should absolutely be filled before a department is expanded. It seems like that would be the sensible thing to do for the taxpayer. It can always be reassessed. And if we find that, that need, even after a full department is there, then we revisit at that point in time. But this being a tough year, I think that that's a place that we might be able to defer. Zoning enforcement is going to be achieved for less this year. There's been a proposed program by our police chief for a seasonal one-time public safety intern program. We're not committed to them year after year. It'll get boots on the ground. They will be driving, 6 of them, I believe, writing tickets from 4 to 2 a.m. when all the problems are. And it's, in neighborhood, increased quality of life. And that's only $43,000 for 1 year versus $92,000 for year after year after year. Could I have the next slide, please? And this is an outline of the building department staffing for the last 12 months. And as you can see, at the bottom of the staff initials column, it's the second column in from the left, full staffing is 4, and they're defined at the below that chart. And our building department has been short-staffed 50% or more, 9 out of the 12 months, and those are highlighted in yellow. We haven't had an assistant building inspector for the last 12 months. And this is where you see the gaps, and filling the gaps first, filling those vacancies before we burden the taxpayer might be a place where we can save up to $92,000 and use that public safety intern program for ordinance enforcement. So I just wanted to lay out some of the data in picture format that we received within the last week. Could I have the next slide, please? So another proposal that is on the table that's from that slide of where can reductions come from is the Public Works Department. 2 full-time employees are being proposed for $148,000. And as I look at the data that came in, as I look at emails that we get from residents, and these guys work hard and they have a lot to do. There's no question the different activities that are under that umbrella. Public Works is sewer, and it's parks and grounds, and it's public work, DPW. And my first big picture view is that the residents are not dissatisfied with the Public Works Department. They're working hard. They are getting it done. The residents are already funding 2 departments this year, with increases that are contractual. The police, we talked about $300,000 this year, and the fire department, which is a cumulative $600,000 over 4 years. There has been a minimum change in the land and road inventories from last year. And I'll show that on the next slide. Same inventories, relatively, same level of service. It seems that this might be a place where we continue subcontracting seasonal or project work and not commit to permanent full-time employees, which again can be reassessed next year. As has been brought up in the past, we really don't know what we're going to get into here with COVID, just coming out of COVID, and the labor market. And these are all variables that we may not want to tie into something permanently this year. It can always be looked at next year. Next slide, please, Wendy. Thank you. So this is the Public Works Department land and road records. This was the data that we received, again, from the finance department last week. And you can see from the first chart that the staffing has been the same for 8 years, exactly the same. I didn't include the sewer portion of Public Works because they've had four employees for as long as the data went back, which was 2009 for the staffing data. That's all that we got from 2009 to 2021. So it's been the same for 8 years. There hasn't been a whole lot of deviation, even in 2013, which was 8 years ago. Now, if you look over in the land column, in the last 8 years, where there's been no change in staffing, we acquired 8.5 acres. The biggest acquisition was about 13 years ago. So in 8 years, we got about 2% more land. In roads, in the last 8 years, same staff, there was 2,000 feet built and none in the last 5 years. So keeping the staff status quo would not be unexpected. I understand, if they need some seasonal help, we got to do that. If we need to maybe, pay a bonus for seasonal help, I know a lot of people are doing that, signing bonus, whatever it is. But, again, land, a 2% increase in land in 8 years, 0.5% in roads in the last 8 years. I think that the service level is acceptable. Yes, we might want more trash picked up. There's always things to do. The list is long. I never finished my list either. And I think that it can be revisited, but I'm just not sure we need to pull the trigger this year in COVID and reval. It could be considered to be deferred. And, that's what I'm asking, I'm presenting to the public, and I'm asking the town council to consider what's really, really needed for our taxpayers. And again, they might not get as much trash picked up, but I think they would rather have the savings in taxes and maybe pick up some trash themselves than to get into this permanent full-time employee hiring. Next slide, please. Outreach obligations post-COVID.
Terry,
Yeah,
we're 15 minutes into this.
I have 2
So
slides.
I ask that you just move it along, okay?
Yep, I'm next to the last. Outreach obligations, I'll skip and jump. I think students need every resource this year, post-COVID. I don't think there's any question. I don't think there's any doubt that the studies would prove that. The Middletown Prevention Coalition, that's who they deal with, students. They need their resources. The Municipal Outreach Department, the ROI has been evidenced, return on investment. The gaps have been identified by many organizations that do provide services. The need is to get it going and make sure that we can service our youth, is to fund a coordinator teacher to program the immediately identified pre-K and transition years. That's kindergarten, 4th, 9th, and graduates. And these are needs that are not developed in any current programs. And that could be an investment of up to $95,000, as low as we've heard a number, $65,000, to get this department on the book, so to speak, on record, and get something moving. A couple of classrooms is all it would take, 1 to 2, maybe 1 even. And there is some additional support that's probable by the state of Rhode Island, COVID funding and grants. And so if we could go to the last slide, thank you for your patience and taking the information. I referenced this earlier. This came up on May 26th, a shift from residential tax over to the commercial side. And we've asked a lot of questions. Thank you, Sean and Mark, Sean Brown, Mark Tangway and staff for getting the answers. George Durgan, just not sure that I have a good picture of the actual impact. Averages are tough in this market. And so I'm still questioning this proposal. Whenever you are saying, let's shift some taxes to businesses, they've already been hit hard. The tax obligation split seems inequitable based on the numbers that have come in email. It propagates that business is business unfriendly. And we just put out an RFP for the West Main Coddington property. And in this climate, I think that I remember Councilor Toronto saying when we first started the budget season, can we come up with a deduction for the businesses? They've been struggling. So I am awaiting more information on this, and maybe that will come later tonight. So thank you very much. I'm open for questions.
Okay, thank you, Council Flynn. Does anybody have any questions of Council Flynn's presentation?
I thought it was very well done. Very
Yeah, well
professional.
done. Thank you very much.
Really
Very well
great
done. A lot of
ideas.
thought, a lot of time, whether we agree or respectfully disagree, a lot of energy and thought went into that. Thank you.
I hope it helps.
Okay. Is anybody on that would like any hands raised? Karen? No? Okay. Any councilors before I turn it over to the next presentation? Want to make any comments? Council Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. If Karen could bring that up, presentation. Just as she's bringing this up, this is kind of stemming from the last meeting we had as well, just talking a little bit about the Middletown outreach program. I know this is going to be a tough year from a budget standpoint, and to try to ask for money for a new department, you know, is tough sledding, as they would say. But I think it's our responsibility, and we owe it to our community, you know, more today than ever, to help our children. It's the focus. Our students who have been doing distant learning, who have fallen behind. Not every student has, but there are certain students that have. And there are programs out there to help. The schools have done some programs. There's other community efforts that are out there, and we've explored these. So I just want to share with you just the areas that we've been able to see, so you can understand what is out there today and why this program is important. And again, not one shoe, fits everyone. Some people thrive through remote learning. Some people don't thrive through remote learning. Some people go to the YMCA to get help. Some people go to Newport community schools. So there's different programs out there, and we're not looking to basically duplicate resources. We're looking just to fill some gaps, and we think we have found some gaps through our interviewing of these third-party associations, and I'm just going to review those real quickly with you tonight. We do have the resources. We need it today. Okay, this is a program that is here to help today. If in a year from now it's a program that we feel is not needed any longer, that's fine. But I think what will prove out is that this is a program that other communities have done, and they've been very successful, and they've been around for many years. Okay, so commit to higher education goals, career readiness, with a proven method to enhance the community. These are the things that we've been focusing on. Okay, next slide. One of the areas that when we met with the superintendent and the vice superintendent was an area that the vice superintendent said, VP, was if you basically early childhood education. This is one of the programs that they focused on in Cumberland. And as you can see, I won't read through all this, but it's getting the children ready. When they come to school, they're learning how to sit down, they're learning how to, read, they're up to speed. And then the teachers can teach. So the children are getting ready to learn. And then when they get to school, the teachers are ready to teach. So this is one of the programs that we heard was a gap. Backpacks to briefcases. This is a little bit more focused on the 7th through 12th grade, doing a transition. We all knew how hard it was to go from 6th grade to 7th grade, and then 7th grade to 8th grade, and the math changed, and our parents can't help us any longer because they don't know how to teach us how they're being taught today. My children went through Middletown. I ran into those problems when they were there. I had to actually seek, additional consulting or tutoring for them. Okay. This is a program, Backpack to Briefcases. This is a program that I know that our school is aware of, and this was a gap that they said they could use help with. We actually had a visit. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it. June 4th, it was on my birthday, but I actually.
Happy birthday, Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep, getting up there. And we reached out to the folks in Cumberland. I mean, we've had a number of meetings with the governor's office to talk about this program. They're very excited that we have that we are, researching this program. Paulette Hamilton, she's the governor's staff. She's been instrumental in pulling these meetings together for us. Craig Dwyer was the governor's staff and a past Cumberland Town Council member. Terry went up to the meeting as well. Sean Brown went to the meeting, and Michelle also went up, the assistant school superintendent. And that was up in Cumberland. It was last Friday. So I heard it was very good. I heard they got a lot of good information. They actually got to see the program in action. I just wanted to give a couple of the meetings, and Paul, I'll get through these slides pretty quick. The Newport Community School Program. These are some of the stats that she sent to us. That's Tracy Shea. She's the executive director. And she said she applauds us, for our efforts and commitment to the community. She's had her program in place for over 20 years. And she has seen some, changes. And these are just some of the stats that she's shared with us in regards to students and their improvement in math and English. And this is a service they offer outside, as more of this is a nonprofit organization. They get very little funding actually from the Newport school systems. We talked with Lori at the Middletown Prevention Coalition, and she sent us an email just thanking us for our efforts spearheading this most important initiative. She felt that there were gaps that we could help her with as well. And this is something that she said is sorely needed. And again, the office of the governor, when we talked with them, they're very excited. They said this is, this is something that hasn't happened in over a decade. They applaud us for our initiative to step up and offer this service, work with other community offerings, and again, fill the gaps. We're not looking to duplicate resources. I know, Paul, you had said to me, well, how are we going to fund this thing? How are we going to, that's important. And again, this is a tough year. We're talking about cuts. We're trying to come out of COVID. We need to, be responsible with our resources and, minimize our tax burden on our residents and our commercial businesses. Just a couple areas that I looked at. We talked about this, the fire department staffing, revenue fund, the 1%. I know we talked about using it for roads, but maybe we can use some of that to fund this department. We have a West Side project fund. I heard there may have over $1 million in that fund. Maybe we can use some of those dollars. We talked about the trash can replacement program. I think we have over $700,000 in that program. Funding from the American Rescue Plan Act, when it's available, as we talked a little earlier, there's some money coming, towards the town. Maybe when that comes up, they'll actually allow us to use this towards COVID, further education. That could be another area that we could, maybe get some dollars from. And also writing grants and private donations. When I reached out to a couple organizations, they actually said, hey, we can help you find some grants. We can help you write some of these grants and maybe try to find ways to fund helping these children fill the gaps. We talked a little bit about, where are we going to locate this? I've talked with Sean a little bit on this. I've talked to a couple other folks. I thought maybe JFK, there's some education going on there right now. Again, 1 to 2 rooms, maybe an Elephant, 1 to 2, rooms there. Students need as much support that we can give them today. It's proven. There's some successful programs out there. Again, we just want to help them. Education, health, and wellness gaps. It's not just math and science. There are kids and students who need, health issues and wealth issues and the ability to help them through the everyday process that they have. And again, we have multiple programs, but this is something that we can help fund as a department within the town to help focus on how can we assist these other programs? How can we support the assistant superintendent with the Beyond the Bell? How can we help the Middletown Prevention Coalition? How can we help Newport Mental Health? How can we help with just different programs, career orientations? Okay, this is where our focus will be. And what we need is a program coordinator / teacher who can help identify these opportunities for gaps and improvements and work to bring these resources all together. Okay, it can't be done by me. It's not going to be done by the council. There aren't other people in the town today that can do that who work for the town. This is a new position that is required. And we're looking for funding of about 75K to 95K for this program. The outreach is committed to fill the gaps to support the development of lifelong skills necessary to succeed, collaborate, communicate, create, critical thinking, social and emotional welfare, and a sense of community. These children are our future. We need to do everything we can do to make sure they're ready when they get out of school to fly. We need to make sure our graduation rates are up and our schools are producing well-rounded citizens who hopefully will stay here in Middletown and help us make a difference. So I'd like to make a motion to change the proposed 2022 budget to fund the Middletown Municipality Outreach Program with an initial budget of 95K.
Second,
You're making that a full motion right now?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on this? Is that the end of your presentation?
Yeah.
Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any discussion? Any
Yeah.
flavor for this?
Just one thing, real fast, Dennis. Do you believe we need? a
Chris, could you talk
full-time-
into the mic, please?
Sorry. Do you believe we need a full-time coordinator to get this department running? Or could we do something as an interim step? Bring in a consultant to identify the gaps, identify the needs for people, identify the needs for space, so that we have a plan
Sure.
in place that then we can execute on, because then that's set in stone. I
Right.
think if we just hire somebody to do it, we build the plan as we go. That's,
Well, I mean, if you're hiring the consultant to come in and pull that program together, there's couples, like if we went to, yeah, I'd be happy with the consultant who can come in and help with that. I don't know what a consultant's going to cost us versus a full-time employee. So I'd be receptive to that, sure.
yeah. And again, this is just me talking. I'm not opposed to hiring people. I'm opposed to hiring people right now. There's a lot of new asks, right? And this is just one more head. So I'd rather see the program documented via consultant to find the gaps where we can find, crossover with the school department, bring in extra resources and help from the community at the same time,
Sure.
instead of just
Volunteers.
throwing a body at it and let's run with the body.
Well,
I
this
say
is,
we bring a consultant instead.
and that's
to
fine.
identify.
This is what we heard from other organizations similar to this, is that's kind of the way they went, was a full-time person to help coordinate the resources. But if you're saying, hey, let's put some money into this department and we'll use it more towards getting a consultant, I'm receptive to that.
Yeah.
How
And
much
that's
money
just-
do you think we would need?
Again, that's just me talking. I don't know. That's the thing. No, we don't have anything in front of us that starts to lay this thing out.
So if we were looking at, again, any money that was spent out of this department would need to come back to the council.
Mhm.
So if we were to hire a full-time person, we would have to come back and get, kind of as Sean does, comes back with an employee, gives us a recommendation, and we would make a decision. If we decided that that money should be used more towards a consultant, then we'd have to go out and find a consultant, get a bid, and then, but I'd like to have some money in the program to pay for the consultant or
I
for the
hear you.
employee.
I hear you.
And I
I'm
think
just-
we have revenue sources that are sitting in the bank that we could use for this. And this is a need today. COVID is here. Our kids are falling
I
behind.
agree with you.
There are a lot of stats out there that will show you that. So I'm receptive to your idea as well.
Yep.
Yep.
I got 3 in the hopper right now
Okay.
that are living, it, right?
There you
So,
go.
and I get it. I fully understand this issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think that we need more information to really focus, to drive this program to full completion so it can be very successful. Right?
Right.
I think creating a structural deficit by hiring another body that may or may not be here in a year, if it's not successful, we don't get return on it, I think it's money lost.
Well, I don't think it'll create a structural deficit. I think, again, we have a lot of dollars sitting in a lot of different funds that would be dedicated to the children, to the students, to help get them back up to speed. And then a year from now, if this program isn't something that we feel is, needed any longer, or it's not feeling it's as important as what the community needs, then we discontinue the program. But I'm optimistic that it will continue on. And I think it's going to offer some real valuable resources to the town. And there are gaps that people have talked to us. I just kind of Those are all the organizations we actually talked to, interviewed, and they told us very excited about the program, applaud us for it. We do believe there's more money that's going to be coming down through the rescue program that we can then hopefully fund into this program. If there is an extreme amount of dollars, then maybe the 95 can be fueled through grants or through, the rescue funds. But right now you can't count on those. And I think this is something we've got to do today because I know the need is there. And it's up to the council. I mean, I'm passionate for it. I think you know that.
Yeah.
I've worked for years on this. I started interviewing the governor 3 years ago. I brought the governor in to speak as the lieutenant governor about this program. And we were very fortunate. Our school stepped up and did the Beyond the Bell right after that type of presentation.
That's why they did it.
Which is really good. I mean, excellent. I love it. That's what it takes.
My opinion
And I
only.
think this is a way that the town can put some money aside to hire either a consultant or a full-time employee to help bring these programs together and fill the gaps. And we've seen the gaps.
Okay. Thank you.
Comment?
Hang on, Terry. We have Council Vice President's up next. And then we have somebody in the audience also that wants to speak in the raise the hand. So go ahead.
Very good.
Thank you. So, Dennis, I feel very much the same as Christopher, and I'll tell you why. When we first talked about this, I was under the impression, maybe incorrectly so, that you were looking for a consultant. And then the next time it came back at 95 and a full-time employee, that kind of threw me off a little bit. And the discussion that happened at the last meeting between you gave your proposal, and then Mrs. Von Billis did, and then Rosemary weighed in, and it seemed like in my head, I said, those are three people that need to sit down and talk. It shouldn't be separate things. I know that you said Michelle had identified some gaps. I was kind of waiting for Rosemary to pick up on that or somebody to kind of make those mesh together. It didn't happen. So I agree that you've got plenty of passion and energy behind this. I don't want to see that wasted. I know the kids are out there that need help, and I'm for it, but I would rather have a consultant come in and say, all right, I listened to school, I listened to Dennis, I listened to this program. Here's what you need to put together, and then we can decide to move forward. And as you say, the money that comes down from the state, it could be perfect timing.
Mhm.
So I'm behind an interim step.
Okay. Terry.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for your comments, both Mr. Welsh and Mr. Logan. I did want to address the concept there and to give some credit to Mrs. Von Villis, who was speaking out about skipping that interim step and actually getting some production for the investment. And that's when through that tour that we had just on June 4th, which was Friday, to the model program, which is in Cumberland, the presentation on the slide was to, we already know where the gaps are between the school department and the community school and the Prevention Coalition and Newport Mental Health. As I stated before, it's the transition years. It's the pre-K to kindergarten. It's the 3rd grade to 4th grade in this school system. It's the 8th grade to 9th grade. It's the graduates getting out. Those are going to be the where the learning loss, needs to be supported. And they need to make an easier transition. They need to be ready to learn when they get into those transitional areas, and where the social emotional is, because all of a sudden the transition it's change, it's new. It can be fearful for some without getting some of the skills to deal with that. So again, in the presentation, the hiring a programmer / teacher, someone who could do both, to get right on the ground running, start finding the preschoolers who have the need for this coming year to get into school. They get a classroom, either at JFK or at Oliphant. One of the things that came out of the tour, which was fascinating, is that because the program isn't an educational or certified program under the school department, you can slide a little on some of the requirements that are required to have a school. And so if your classroom might have a raised area, Well, it's okay. You mark it as hazardous and you teach the kids, and it's okay. Whereas if it was a regular educational institute, absolutely not. Raise that floor and make it flat. So you get a little flexibility when you're creating a department like this. And at some point, the trigger's got to have to be pulled. So, and now's really the time. It's so critical. Dennis is right in his passion. The need has been identified. We know exactly what the need is. We just need we have space. We just need a person to help our community. And to address something that Dennis alluded to, if it's really not that the department would ever go away and end, because I think there's always going to be a community need. I think if you talk to any of these programs that have been in existence for, 10, 20 years, there's always going to be a need, but it may shift community to community. Maybe our need isn't going to be pre-K down the line, but maybe it's definitely going to be our graduates, or maybe it's going to be our families that need a little additional venue for learning English or life skills. So, broader thinking, we know what we need today. And, I think it's that $75,000 to $95,000 person to start helping our people right now and not waiting for more consulting to get product for the investment. I just wanted to kind of round out all the comments from Councilor Von Villas and Toronto, Logan, and Welch.
Thank you, Terry.
Well, thank you for that roundup. We have 4 people that would like to speak. So let's turn to the public now and get their input. So who's the first one? With Christine, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can. Good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Christina Ruth, and I actually live in North Kingstown, but I work at the Pell Elementary School, and I also support the Child Opportunity Zone program at in Middletown Public Schools. And we are a program of East Bay Community Action Program. I've come before you in the past during the Middletown Civic Appropriations to request support for out of school time programs. And I'm proud to say that we work very collaboratively with Middletown Public Schools for the Beyond the Bell program. A lot of what you're describing is very, very familiar to me, as I've been the coordinator of the Child Opportunity Zone program in Newport for just about 25 years. And the Child Opportunity Zone programs, the whole goal of those programs is to provide wraparound supports and services, to be sort of that air traffic controller, coordinating the programs in the community, bringing them on site, and providing high quality programs and services. We are very familiar with the field of out of school time and with the standards and the quality measures that are needed for these kinds of programs, and to be able to assess the needs of children. At this point, I think mainly what holds us back from our expansion in Middletown is just limited resources. We actually have a goal to expand the programs and add on an outreach worker. We already have a full-time coordinator who provides services in the 2 elementary schools as well as the middle school. And again, it's a seamless approach with the school department. So we have an academic component to it as well as an enrichment component. I would absolutely love to share more information. I know the time is limited here and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I would love to be part of a process to really assess the needs of the community and work together to create a even more vibrant program in Middletown.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have Superintendent Kreger. Rosemary, can you hear us?
Yes.
Good evening.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good. Thank you for the opportunity to weigh in on this. And I want to thank Dennis and Terry for organizing the field trip to Cumberland. I did debrief with our assistant superintendent about the many programs that you saw up there. So just to build a little bit on what Christine talked about, we do have a program, a robust program that we want to even make more robust. And Christine talked about a high quality program. So when we look at preschool programs for our students, we look for an accredited program an accredited preschool program, because we know an accredited preschool program will bring some dollars, grant dollars to us for a program. It will bring a certified teacher or teachers for the program, and we would be held to a high standard of delivering services to our preschool students. We would also want to include transportation for our students in a preschool program. So you look at what we have now in terms of the Head Start program over at Kennedy School for our military student, for our Middletown students. There is transportation provided. There are certified teachers. So I really like Counselor Logan's suggestion about bringing in a consultant to look at the programs. I think that's money well spent, and I believe we could get working with EBCAP, we could get someone who knows the Cumberland program very well, knows our programs, and knows programs around the state to do a really thorough crosswalk with a subcommittee made up of the council, the school committee members, and some of our community and teachers, and do a crosswalk of the programs that we have and where the gaps are. Yes, we did say we could have a more robust preschool program, absolutely. And a more, on the other end, a more briefcase type of program for our students. But bringing someone in, again, to do the crosswalk before the council hires any coordinator would be the right thing to do, because we could survey our community. We can use the data that we receive from Survey Works, which is the Rhode Island Department of Education survey that they ask us to fill out, our parents and community, and even go back to the survey that Middletown put out to our community several years ago and review that data, making a decision about what type of a program we have, be it the school, the town, together, is really critical. So I know so many of you are data driven on the council. Using that data through the work of a consultant would be key. So I would be fully in support of Councilor Logan's proposal. And perhaps we talked about the American Rescue Act dollars. Perhaps putting that aside might be a way to pay for this consultant. As I said, I think we could get a consultant that would probably be 1 or 2 days working with the group, and we can really then identify what are the true needs in a community, in this community. Where are the crosswalk, what we have, what we want to have, and how we go about it. That to me is a more measured approach. And, from the school side, we're thrilled that the town council wants to expand the opportunities for all of our students and our community. But again, doing this with data is really critical.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Karen, who's next? Rick, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to allow me to speak. I do reside in Middletown part-time, and I do understand some of the
Rick,
short-term needs.
Rick, excuse me. We just need your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Rick Medeiros, 52 Tuckerman Avenue.
Thank you.
All right. I understand the short-term need that we've been talking about, and I know that the last few people have been speaking have kind of dovetailed into the medium and long-term that I've been thinking about. And I do agree with the potential for having a consultant, but wouldn't this present an opportunity to also have that individual or individuals look into why Middletown has consistently ranked somewhere in the middle in the state in terms of performance, but yet seems to rank pretty high in cost per student. I think we have examples next door in Portsmouth, and you could look at Barrington as an example of two towns that do a lot more for a lot less. So why don't we start thinking about ideas that could potentially bring about more younger families into Middletown, who would be attracted to higher ranking schools and schools that would be able to provide what they expect out of their kids. And I don't see a better way of doing that than to try to replicate what other towns are doing. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it was Mr. Toronto who mentioned that a few of you had spoken to other council members at other towns. Why not maybe go pay a visit to Barrington or pay somebody to do that as a consultant and figure out how you guys can replicate what they do? Anybody on, and if you disagree with what I'm saying, feel free. I'd love to hear why, but I think this would present a good opportunity to see and do what's working elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. And appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Karen. Bird Jones. How you doing?
Yep, I'm doing well. Thank you, Bird Jones, 306 Tuckerman Avenue. I'll be very brief because I've already written to you guys. I do think I'm solidly in support of Councilor Toronto's proposal. I think if we are even considering as a community spending $92,000 for a full-time zoning person who we will have forever, that our money is better spent spending $95,000. And by the way, that is probably what you're going to pay for a consultant who's worth their salt. To look at how to consolidate these programs and make our schools stronger. And I've said this to you all over and over again. We need to look at our schools as our biggest draw. People do not move to communities with weak schools. They don't do it. So if we want to really leverage our community and make it as robust as we possibly can, we invest in our schools, we look at these programs, and I think everything else is secondary. And as you all know, I've lived here a long time and I've been paying taxes a long time. So thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Terry. Thank you to the council for your consideration.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Okay. Larry, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Just your name and address for the record, please.
Thanks, Mr. President. Larry Connell, 23 Shore Drive. I just want to echo the comments from the gentleman from Tuckerman Avenue. I didn't catch his name, but since I moved back to Rhode Island, I've been scratching my head trying to understand, particularly in Middletown, the cost per student per year is out of alignment with schools that perform well. Portsmouth is a great example. The cost per student per year is much less in Portsmouth, and they're ranked number 4 in the state. I moved from Washington, D.C. back to here, and I can tell you for a fact, Montgomery County in Maryland, their school system ranks among the top in the entire nation. Yet they charge, and this is as of 2020, I don't have 21 numbers, $16,000 per student. I'm having a hard time understanding why Middletown needs to charge more per student, yet we can't even get ranked in the top of the state schools. And I've heard the argument that because we have a higher population of military students, I would submit to the council that it's somewhat of a red herring, because in Montgomery County, if you're not familiar with the area, is surrounded by military bases. There are tons of military students in the Montgomery County school system. So to the gentleman from Tuckerman Avenue who made the suggestion that if we go with a consultant to Mr. Toronto's proposal, I would also ask that they look into why we can't seem to improve our education despite the high cost per pupil. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry.
Mr. Bagwell, good evening. Can you hear us, Mr. Bagwell? You're muted.
Am I still muted or am I there?
You're on mute. We can hear you loud and clear, sir, now. Name and address for the record, please.
John Bagwell, 587 Tuckerman Avenue,
Good evening,
Middletown.
John.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. Just in comments as to why our costs are high. I think I read someplace that 30% of our students come from families that are, quote, economically challenged. And if that's a fact, then the school needs to spend more resources to assure that they're getting an appropriate education. And I think that's probably not that as a percentage that you're going to find a lot higher in Middletown than it is in Portsmouth. That's just a fact of life, and that leads to higher costs. But that's not really that's a thought that occurred to me after listening to the last two. But my principal reason for making comments is I want to commend Terry for digging in. As I said, the devil's in the details, and she's found some devilish things. And I commend her for a prudent, common sense way to address the staffing situation. I think if we can defer the hiring of permanent people for this year, re-examine it next year for I would believe it was the Public Works Department, I think that would be a good thing. And I think the idea that we would hire a full-time zoning officer to address a part-time problem is kind of inconsistent with what I have heard in council discussions on the enforcing the short-term rental situation in Middletown. So again, I think that we need somebody, but I think it should be somebody working as a part-time rather than a full-time person. So anyway, thank you, Terry, for digging that up. One thing I'd like to ask Terry, she gave a lot of numbers for savings, plus I'd like to know the total of that. You didn't give us a total.
I did not provide a total because it would be up to the council what the numbers that they wanted to collectively decide on. So for instance, with the structural deficit could be, a savings of the whole 170,000 that's proposed and written in the budget right now, or it could be just a portion of that 95,000, or something in between. So I couldn't provide a total. I could only do it by line item according to the slide that Mr. Brown provided.
Anyway, I think it was a great job, Terry. Thanks for your digging.
Well, thank you, John. Nice to hear.
All I have to say, but thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bagwell. Antone, good evening. How are you? You have to unmute, sir. There you go. How you doing?
Thank you for letting me speak, and members of the council. In education, in 2005, there was a committee put together to explore our schools and what we have to to our schools to enhance them for curriculum. And it was recommended that we hire a consultant to put together a curriculum second to none in the country, and then look at our schools to see what we have to do to support that curriculum. And what we got instead was a proposal for $123 million school complex. Now, it was mentioned by Mr. Bagwell, some of our students are economically challenged. That's true, but the state gives us so much money to educate those students, and the town makes up what is needed. I think that every time I say this, I'm told that we teach the standards. Well, the standards of the state is terrible. The state is ranked at the lower end of the spectrum nationally, and we rank in the middle. We should be at least at the top, or giving Barrington a challenge. But every time I mention it, we say we teach the standards, and I get frustrated and upset because there's a lot more that we can do, that can be done. The school department's looking for a 4% increase. They've been level funded 2-3 times. I think they ought to be given some money, but I think at this point, a 2% might be more like it. I think they can have better financial controls. And I think that the 4% budget, or what Mr. Brown is asking for, is a little much. I think Mr. Brown has some projects he'd like to finance, especially with the money coming from the increase in police and fire expansions, which being paid by the grant. That money to be used to finance some other projects and slowly pick the pockets of the people in Middletown. It's been said we have to do something for the people on the fixed income and retired. We had a program. You, Mr. President, you said that we have to do something, but you didn't know what. Well, you had a program that was feasible and it could always be amended. And as the bugs, so as they say, appeared, they can be worked out. At least people on fixed income and are retired that made Middletown what they are. Those people made Middletown what it is today. And I think they ought to be, programs should be put into place to help protect those people like you have in Florida. So I really think that what Mr. Brown is asking for is a little excessive. I think that, you have to walk before you run. And I just hope the council tightens up the belt, as they say, and get some control on expenditures. The government doesn't have any money till they take it from somebody, and it's the taxpayers. Eventually, the taxpayers can't afford it. They either have to lose their house, or they're going to sell, or they can apply for I call the debt tax, where they pay they don't pay the increase in their taxes until they will it to their children. Then their children have to pay everything back with probably a 3% or so interest on that money. So,
Anton, you've gone about 7 minutes now. Okay, so if you could wrap it up, that'd be great, sir.
Well, as I said, I think the budget is excessive. There's room for some restraints, and to charge the people $100 and some thousand in their taxes for 3 years to get them used to it, as they say, is absurd and outrageous. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for members of the council.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your input.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, is there anyone else, Karen? Twice in one night, Mrs. Kreger, come on in.
Thank you. I just want to build on what Mr. Bagley said in terms of the per pupil. We are in the middle third of the state for fiscal year 2020. There are factors that drive up a per pupil cost. The factors are a poverty rate, mobility, English language learners. Also, the loss of state aid and consistent funding from the municipality. So when you look at those districts that the other gentleman talked about, yes, Portsmouth is lower than we in per pupil rate. When you look at their poverty or English language learners and their mobility, they don't have as high a rate as we do. They've had consistent funding. They did lose state aid, but they've had consistent funding. And, that is important. The other thing I do want to say is a consultant would no way cost $95,000. A consultant would really be, as I said, a 1 or 2 time consultant, 2 days or whatever, to crosswalk our programs and look at what we need to enhance the Beyond the Bell and the municipal enhancement program for our students. We've had clean audits. So Mr. Viveras, I always appreciate your comments, but you talk about our finances not being well managed. All of our audits have been clear for years. So I just want to get the facts out there. Thank you, Mr. President, for letting me talk again.
Thank you, Mrs. Kreger.
Thank you.
Karen. Good evening, Teresa. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Teresa Spangler, 1111 Wapping Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to make a quick comment about the discussion on the early childhood. The program I know that was mentioned about in Cumberland is not a certified program, so they do have more flexibility. But there are a lot of things that we just have to take into consideration as a town and as a community of a location. There's fire codes, and I personally, as an early childhood educator, would never want our community to have anything but a licensed program by Department of Ed or Department of Human Services, which is the licensing agency for private early childhood programs, and Head Start. So I just wanted to put that out there. This is something that is definitely, I know how important early childhood is for education. I know that giving children a solid foundational skill set is critical for success in their future of education or career. But it is something that would have to be done very, very well. It has to be very well done, and it has to be done correctly through a licensed organization. I don't think it would be good to not have certified teachers. I don't think it would be good to have it on a second floor, which is against fire code violations. So just some food for thought. This is something that if we're going to look at the early childhood program in this community, I think I would really like to be part of that as a school committee member and as a professional in the field for over 25 years. It is, as I know, as I said, I know how important it is. So it's not something that I would never support. It's a great thing to do. And it's not a competition to me. So that's not even a conflict of interest, in my opinion. But I just wanted to share that with you, that it's something that would have to be looked at very carefully.
Okay.
So,
Thank you
very
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, is there anyone else? Okay. Is there any further comments from any counselors? Because we do have a motion in a second. I'm going to wait for Mr. Santos to get back.
Question?
I would just,
Oh, am I on mute? Oh, question?
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
President?
yes, ma'am.
So the proposals or the information, the research that was done on my presentation, could Sean maybe let us know where on this ordinance that those elements would live, or maybe on the motion that was sent to us late this afternoon? Like the structural deficit, where is that in a motion? Or do we want to discuss some of these issues?
I don't have something prepared to do that.
Okay, so I'm wondering if, maybe we aren't ready to put all the numbers in their place yet.
Well, that's your opinion, because I'm ready to put numbers in places, believe me. And I don't mean to be sarcastic to you, Terry, but
No, that's fine.
we can data to death, and we'll never have a budget.
Let
me just finish. Sorry.
Yeah. No,
And
you're
so
good.
I do have some things after we have a motion a second on the floor currently on what Dennis made a motion on. I'm waiting for Teresa to come back from the facility so that we can vote on that, and then we'll tackle the budget.
Okay. Could you reread that motion, please?
Dennis made it, so he can read it to you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to make a motion to change the proposed 2020 budget to fund the Middletown Municipal Outreach Program with an initial budget of 95K.
Okay. And you seconded that, Terry, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mrs. Von Villis, discussion.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on this because it seems to me that we've been working in one direction, trying to keep the budget down and perhaps eliminate things. And it sounds to me like this is a motion which is intended to increase the budget. And I just would like some clarity on that.
Sure. Again, this is something that we started working on about 3 years ago. And because of, and as we moved forward, it was coming together. And then we had a budget constraint. So we decided not to put it in the budget. And then we had COVID hit. So we decided not to put it in the budget. And now with the need that we have recognized in the, with our schools, with our students, from distance learning, from social and emotional issues, working with all these other departments, it has brought forward a need for this type of program. Now, the money we put into the account, if we're not happy with the $95,000, that was kind of the numbers we kept hearing from different organizations of what is a good amount to start with. I think a consultant's going to take more than 1 or 2 days to kind of go through this. If it's a different number, I'm okay. I mean, I'm optimistic there's going to be funding. I've got people who said they'll do grants. But we've got to put something in the number. Okay, we've got to start committing resources to this. These students are going to be coming back to school in the fall, and we're hoping to have this program in motion to help fill these gaps and to work with these organizations. And it's not me. I'm not a professional teacher. I'm not a consultant. So we need to hire somebody, if it's a consultant or a director / teacher, we need someone focusing in on this and working with these organizations. So that's how the number came about.
Can I?
Does that answer your question?
Well, it does, because really what it says is that, yes, you want to add more money to the budget. And I don't have a problem with the program. Please understand that right up front. But I guess I'm concerned about adding money to a budget that we're trying to reduce. And I'm wondering why this can't wait until, for example, I'm looking at the first thing that came up on the docket tonight. The town expects to receive approximately 4.7 million of funding under the American Rescue Plan. So I'm wondering why this has to be done tonight in association with a budget that we are trying to keep at a reasonable level. Why are we adding something that is not a problem if we just wait a little bit and we'll have the money for it if we decide we want to do it? That's all I'm asking.
And thank you for that. My proposal was to actually use money that's sitting in one of several bank accounts right now. We're not adding to the budget. This is money that we can take out of, we're going to raise 1% for the firemen to offset that in 3 years. So we could use some of that money. We could use some of the $700,000 that we have sitting in an account to replace the trash totes. We got $1 million sitting in an account for the West Side. There's a lot of money sitting in a lot of different accounts that we use when we want to use it. So the decision is, do we want to use any of that money to fund this program? It's not adding to the budget.
I personally would rather wait until we get the money from the federal government. That's just my opinion.
But we might not know what we can use it for, and school could be right back on top of us. The need is now. We
Okay.
don't know what we can use that money for right now.
Well, I'm sorry, I can't support it for the reason that I just gave.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you, Councilor Von Villis, for being sensitive to the budget, The only reason it was proposed as an increase, and I appreciate the recognition of the contradiction, is because it's with COVID, it's something that I see, and I hope the council sees, the community sees as an obligation to meet these gaps that other programs are not doing. It's not a duplication of effort. It's not a redundancy. These are things that aren't being done and are not developed in current programs. So it was really just a post-COVID obligation increase, whereas others, are places that have other considerations for deferment or reduction, elimination, et cetera.
Council Welch.
Thank you. I think we're all going around in a big circle here. And personally, I think if it was $65,000 or somewhere around there and it was for a consultant and we could put it in the budget right now, I'm for it.
Okay.
Okay, so I had a conversation with Dennis after the last meeting, and he's extremely passionate about it, and I appreciate that. One of the things we did talk about was funding. I do disagree with the funding paths that you're recommending. At some point in time, any one of those that you want to take from does create a structural deficit, because say it's refuse and recycling. We're coming up on a new contract here shortly. That money's there so that one or two things happen. When we have to negotiate a new contract, we don't know what that cost is going to be. So we'll have that fund there. Also, at some point in time, the reason that council created that fund was to make the refuge self-sustaining. Having said that, to make it self-sustaining, or to drop the permit fee. That was the idea behind that, to gain more. Now, you could take it, council could decide to take it out of it, fund it at once. I don't recommend doing that. It's kind of a shell game, because, any of those funds that you mentioned, it's going to create a structural deficit at some point, whether it's today, whether it's down the road. That's what it's going to do. I do know that I was talking to Councilor Flynn this weekend several times, and she did meet with, she went to the town hall, Cumberland, with Sean, as you mentioned, and she also attended a function out of Brenton Point for the Portuguese
Rhode Island
Society.
Day, Portugals.
Yes, near and dear to my heart. So anyway, she's met, the governor was actually there and said that there may be some funding for this coming down the road. So I don't, if there's funding for it, potential funding for it, or you said, like Mrs. Vaughn said, maybe that the 4.7 million, maybe not, I don't know. But I think that you're making some traction. I'm not crazy about the funding sources. I think that if the council's open to a consultant, then, in one breath, we're saying, we don't need full-time employees. Where's the data? And then the next breath, we're saying add $92,000, and where's the data? So it doesn't make sense. We can't make decisions, in my opinion, decisions like that. Do I think it's a good program? Yeah, potentially. I think I think what Mrs. Kreger said this evening is, you got to turn to the experts when we're not sure where to go. And, we have Mrs. Vaughn has 50 years. We have Rosemary has 40 plus years. That's what I look to, whether I agree with them or not. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add one other thing. I heard Mrs. Kreger say 2 days to review their programs and to see what they could put together. So I'd be curious as to what she thinks is a reasonable amount of money for a consultant for 2 days.
Is Mrs. Kreger still on? Mrs. Kreger.
Thanks. Well, we would need to put out, I don't think we need to do an RFP or anything like that, because it would be under the the amount that we would need in RFP. I have in mind a few people, as I said, who are well-known in the state that would definitely step up and enjoy this work. So, what is the going rate for a consultant? Maybe 150, 200 an hour. We could do a lot of upfront work for the consultant and possibly the consultant would do it pro bono too, for the good of our community and the students and families in our community. So that would be my estimate.
Okay. So for I'm just going max 200 an hour for 24 hours, say. That's $4,800 versus
Yeah.
$5,000 versus where
And
we're at.
it's actually, it would be their working hours. They would have to do prep work and prep for looking at the programs and then talk to the different focus groups or whatever. So, I think that's fair. I wouldn't say it's over $5,000 at all. In fact, it could be a lot less.
Okay. So what's the pleasure of the council? Because we need to move this along. There's a motion, a second. Do you want to vote on that or you want to amend your motion?
I'll amend the motion.
Okay, go right ahead.
I'd like to amend it from, do I have to say it all again, or can I just amend the dollar amount?
I think you would say it all over again. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just, I would also clarify the motion to say where the money will come from, the funding source that's required by the charter.
Okay.
Okay.
What are we doing?
Okay. Mrs. Kreger, while Dennis looks for that, please.
I think I finished my statement that Dr. Von Villis asked. So I should lower my hand here, unless there's a
Okay.
question.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
well, Council Toronto is looking for that. Just a couple of comments. We spent, when we were in Cumberland, reviewing what they do and, how they do it and whatnot. We were there for 2 hours just on that site. And I think there are so many programs, COSI's one, Newport Community School is one, Prevention Coalition, Middletown Mental Health, just off the top of my head. I think those hours, I think it would be to do it thoroughly because you wouldn't want to leave anybody out. It might be more than 2 days. It's encouraging to know that, a couple of days might be, $5,000 and, so what would a couple of weeks be? Probably half of what Councilor Welch was proposing. And, on the data side of it, I'm presented historic and current data. There wouldn't be, the data for a program like this doesn't really come out until it starts existing. You have broad data from, afterschool.gov, youth.gov, all about after school programs and the counseling from the various, folks that already do it. And I'm not sure that there would be, the hard data. I'm not sure you can compare the data of, what has existed historically in town that I have presented earlier to data for this program, other than the studies that already exist, they're already out there, the benefits and whatnot.
Okay. Mrs. Von Villis.
I just want to, I want to say something, but I want to ask, is Dennis's motion still in play?
He's going to amend it or withdraw it and then start. I would withdraw it and start a new motion.
Okay.
All right.
That's probably the cleanest way to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Thank you very
Withdraw your
much.
motion, then I want to say something.
Okay. He did.
Oh, he did.
He did.
withdrew-
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. As a person who has worked as a consultant, educational consultant with a firm in Boston for more than 5 years, and as listening to the superintendent of schools who made a recommendation that was under $5,000, I would like to make a motion, just to give it a little more leeway, that we allocate $10,000 for the possibility of of a consultant. And I will tell you, as a person who's done this for a living, that you can do it for $10,000 and, or even much less.
Great.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second,
Did you second it, Terry?
I did.
Are you good with that, Dennis?
I think it's going to take longer than that, to be honest with you.
It's a start, brother.
It is a start,
Okay.
but is it going to be money that's going to be funded in this department?
No, it's a consultant.
Yeah. But in that department, I thought,
Is that where it's gonna come from, Sean? Because we're gonna look to you for the funding source, or Mark.
Yeah, it would be accounted for in the department. You've created the department.
Okay.
So that's where it should be
You
recorded.
good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, look at you smiling.
I'm smiling.
Thank you. So we have a motion in a second for up to $10,000 for a consultant to come out of the school, not the school, the,
Outreach program, right?
what is it? The outreach?
Program?
Sean, what's the name of it?
Middletown Municipal.
Middletown Municipal Outreach, okay. We have a motion in a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Okay. I'm sorry, you opposed? Okay, ma'am. Yes, you may.
Mrs. Flynn said tonight, we've got to save money. We got to cut taxes. We got to cut departments. All right. On the other hand, here we are, we're going to spend $10,000. Mrs. Flynn is concerned about the seniors and that they can't afford to live in Middletown. They can't afford to pay their taxes. Here we are spending $10,000. I'm going to say, let's give the council $10,000 each.
Hey, I'll second. No, we can't.
Can we get a car too?
Okay, thank you,
I voted
Mrs.
against it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mrs.
I'm
Santos.
sorry, Papa.
Make a motion to take a 10-minute recess.
Okay, motion to 10-minute recess.
Second.
What is it, Chris?
Yeah, Mrs. Flynn's hand up. I don't know if she won.
Terry, can we get it when we come back?
I did want to respond to Mrs. Santos.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and I hate to repeat myself, but I did cover this with Mrs. Von Villis, who also noted the contradiction, and I totally admitted it, and I did explain it, that, yes, our seniors, our families, our community is suffering from COVID and from a revaluation year. It's a double whammy. However, this particular program is a program that is a community obligation. And I'm proud of the council for recognizing that, we are obligated to help our community and to fill some gaps and to take a little step forward. So it is to benefit the community. And sometimes you have to look at those more broad-based goals and balance the investment, not the expense, the investment, as opposed to those things that aren't necessary right this budget season or could be deferred given the historic data.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Yes, ma'am. We have a motion second for a 10-minute recess. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to reconvene.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Oh, God.
Council Welch.
Okay, motion to amend on page 68, Children, Youth, and Learning. Line 40, increase by $10,000. And on page 69, taxes levied by municipality, line 16, increase by $10,000.
Second.
Okay, so this motion's in reference to the money that we just put out for the voted upon for the consultant. Over the break, Sean and Mark identified where that would come from, and that's what that motion pertains to, okay?
Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay.
Okay, motion to amend on page 68, support services, line 28, decrease by $28,600. Page 68, under building, line 32, decrease by $5,000. Page 68, police, line 34, decrease by $31,000. Page 68, under fire, line 35, decrease to $20,400. On page 68, under public works, line 36, decreased by $65,975. Page 68, under Middletown Prevention Coalition, line 39, decreased by $5,900. Page 68, under general fund debt service, line 45, decreased by $15,000. Page 69, non-department specific, line 2, decrease $15,000. Page 69, capital improvements under police, line 5, decreased by $133,020. Page 69, other revenue from local sources, line 19, decreased by $5,000. Page 69, funds transfer in, line 22, decreased by $128,020. Line, page 69, capital improvements for the school, line 9, increased by $1,350,000. Page 69, school department use of fund, line 35, increased by $1,350,000. Line 69 under education, that is page 69 under education, line 11, decreased by $538,580. On page 69, taxes levied by municipality, line 16, decreased by $725,455. Page 70, appropriation to school department, line 24, decreased by $538,580. And all subtotals be adjusted accordingly.
Second.
Conversation?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to, if you allow me, I'm gonna kind of break this down, okay? And then we can have discussion. Is that all right?
Fine.
Okay, excellent. So that motion is the motion for the budget, okay? And I'd like to break that down. We all have in front of us the rate illustrations, and I'll cover those. The tax illustrations for residential, rate illustrations for residential and commercial, and the tangibles. We have the rate tax illustrations for residential, tax illustrations for commercial, and the tax illustrations for the tangible taxes, okay? So I'd like to cover those, and Mark and Sean, if I stumble, please just grab me, okay?
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
were those in an email or something, or can they be put on the screen?
Yeah, they did. They went in email form to you, Terry.
Was that today?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna put them on the screen.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And
So I'm gonna start with some overall comments and a proposal that will reflect that motion. I spoke to, I had really good dialogue, and I want to thank my fellow counselors and the administration for their input, for their time. You know, we in conversations one-on-one, I think we kind of can come to a consensus here on this budget. And I'm going to break that down for you here shortly and obviously open for discussion, okay? So having said that, overall, the tax, 2% increase on the tax rate, and this is how it breaks down. So bear with me when you hear the 2% because it's a 2% increase, but it ends up being a decrease of 7 cents per 1,000 on the tax rate overall. And I'm going to show you how we're going to get there, okay? So the first thing we had to do is, and I think we all agreed upon this, is we had to take that 1% for the firefighters, for the funding for the firefighters for the next 3 years. So, and that was because, as we all know, when we negotiated with the firefighters, they hadn't received any additional staffing since 2006, I believe, or 2004, whatever year it was. And so it got a little ugly there for a little bit, but we met with them, we got it cleaned up. We listened to the public, and we're putting on 8 additional people. So we have to pay for that. In the meantime, we got the SAFER grants through former Council President Sylvia, Jack Reed, and that they're going to pay for the first 3 years of that funding 100%. So we have to plan for that 4th year. And that includes a proposal of $170,000, which is 1%. So 170, 170, 170, 4 years, sorry. You break it down at $600,000, $680,000. Okay. So what do we do with that 1% while we're banking it for that after that 4th year? The proposal from the administration was let's put that into some roads because we have a $650,000 budget for roads that we implemented about 4 or 5 years ago. And if we put that into roads, and there's an additional $100,000 for capital for the gutters we talked about and ditches to make Middletown safer on them highly traveled roads. That's part of it as well. So it would be $920,000 for roads, and I'll get to that in a minute. But that 1% for the fire department, okay? 170. And I know Terry saw it a little bit differently, and I appreciate that. But I think we can get more done up front with it now cheaper than we will down the road if we prolong it.
Mr. President, is this the time to discuss that issue?
No, I'm going to go right through it, Terry, and we're going to you can take copious notes and ask any questions at the end. Okay. So there's a 170 for 170,000, 1% for the 8 firefighters. There's $300,000 obligation for the police contract. Now, again, as Terry stated in her presentation, that's upfront that we're going to have to pay, but long term, we negotiated them out of the pension. They agreed to that. So there's going to be savings every time a policeman is added down the road. It's going to be savings on our actuary, okay, and significant savings. And they were aware of that. We were aware of that. So that's long term, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, the town will realize those savings. 1 full-time employee, instead of 2 full-time employees, I'd like to concede to 1 full-time employee worth about $75,000 total package, fully loaded. That includes benefits for the DPW. 6 public safety interns part-time, $43,000. And what I like about this, I was on the fence about it, but I went and met with Sean and Tom the other day. These folks are going to be working the trouble shifts, the 4 to midnights or whatever it is, patrolling in police vehicles. So that I think it does a lot of things. How do you know it's an intern in a police vehicle? Number one. And number two, we're going to get more enforcement out of it. And I think that's really, really good. 1 full-time zoning enforcement officer, that department to me has just been lacking for years. And I know the some of the flavor tonight has been, well, we shouldn't add full-timers at this point in time. But this one here, and it's in the $75,000 range is what I'm being told. But this could also be a revenue generator as well. the way I look at it. And, you know, we went through the whole short-term rental. And if one thing came out of that, that was enforcement. We didn't raise rates. We didn't do any of that at this point in time. But we're looking for better quality of life for our people. And two, I believe it will generate some revenue at some point in time. But enforcement is the key. And really the rest after that, the rest of the increases are just really, there's nothing left really after that as far as increase goes. It's just regular operating operations. 2%, school recommended 4%. I'm recommending 2%. In my conversations with every counselor, it was kind of nice because everyone was, without even discussing it, was on the same page. So, and that's equivalent to $538,580 for the schools. Now, what I'm about to talk about is some of the vehicles. These vehicles, specifically the fire department. Mr. Welch is smiling because he's happy. And I'm happy too. I think it's the right thing to do. We kicked the can. If I had to go back and make a different decision last year, I was talking to Terry about this today. She said, "All we're doing is kicking the can down the road," and we did. So now we have to do it. So the two new pumpers, they're a 5-year lease. They will come out of the rescue wagon fund. That is a fund that revenue is generated not from tax dollars, but from insurance dollars. Every time somebody takes a ride in the red bus, so to speak, the town gets revenue for that. So, and also the police cars, instead of 4 new vehicles, I don't believe they need 4 new vehicles. I think 2 is a good concession, given the climate. And also, one had just gotten totaled, so they have a new one. So actually we'll fund 2 out of this budget, but they'll actually end up with 3. So we got to kind of stay on that program the best we can to keep our equipment up to date. And again, that rescue wagon fund was established in 2004, and it's going to pay for those the 2 pumpers and the 2 police vehicles. No ATV. To me, that's more of a nice versus a necessary. What people don't understand is they get a bill, they see their bill, and then they say, "Well, my taxes went up, but they bought that vehicle." They don't correlate the two because they don't do it like we do. So I'm going to go back to the road paving now. The road paving, the $650 annual that we budget. It's been in there for the last 5 years or so. The $170 from the firefighters, the 1%. We'll put that money to use into capital in the form of road paving, and an additional $100,000 for gutters and sidewalks. The Paradise Avenues, they improve the safety on those ditches. There's not going to be sidewalks there, but we can fill those ditches in, and we can make the roads safer for pedestrians and bicyclists and joggers. So that 650, the 170, 100,000 adds up to 920,000, and that'll increase next year if the council chooses to use it the same. Instead of 170, it'll be 340. So there'll be more roads to pave. So you think about it, we can, in the next maybe potentially 4 years, we can pave and make safety improvements in some of these roads of up to close to $4 million. And that's a lot without borrowing any money, right? So I think that was a really good recommendation, Sean, by you and your staff to incorporate that in there while we save for the firefighters. That's a general fund. The sewer fund is a 2% increase for rate users, and the rate is currently $16.78. That goes to $16.89. That includes an I&I charge from Newport and a customer service charge that they charge us. So that's not something we impose, it's something they impose that we have to pay, and that's passed on to the rate users, okay? So that goes up 11 cents, and the average gallons go from 41,700 gallons to 45,500 gallons. There is some capital, if you'll recall, and I'd like to just revisit that real quick. For the sewer fund, there's $1,759,000 for the replacement of the Marshall Village pump station that has to be replaced, and also the force main the Paradise Ave force main. From the Paradise Ave pump station, it goes to the Wave Avenue pump station. We have to replace that, okay? A lot of those costs that people don't see are underground, improvements underground, but they have to be made and you know, so that's what that money is going to be used for, okay? As far as the refuse and recycling fund, there's no increase at all. The rates are staying the same. You know, we do have a contract coming up, as I stated earlier. So we need to make sure that we're ready for that contract without potentially increasing to the rate users, to the users. Parks and Rec funds staying the same. All the rates are the same. So there's nothing really there. So I'd like to cover if you would please, I would like to cover the tax rate. The current tax rate before the reval is $13, and I'm talking about residential first, okay? It's $13.76. When there's a reval, we have to normalize the tax rate because you can't keep the same tax rate if the assessments go up, right? So when the assessments go up, the mill rate or the tax rate has to come down or be normalized, as we call it. So without doing anything with the budget, just from the reval, the current tax rate normalized based on the reval statistics would go from 1376 to 1207 without doing a thing to the budget. Okay. We've spoken of a rebalance. We're going to reword that to rebalance of the 500,000 from commercial to residential from the reval. So a lot of the residentials went up, and George is here to catch me. And a lot of the businesses went down. So in the past, we've always normalized the rate, but we've never normalized the dollars. And that's really what's being proposed here, is to normalize or rebalance those dollars. Okay. So by doing that, what it does is it relieves the residents, the residential tax burden even more. So with the 2%, the tax dollars after the rebalance would be $12.11. Without that rebalance, it would have been $12.31. Okay, I want to make sure everyone's clear on that. Before the rebalance, we normalized to $12.07. After the reval, the increase on the overall levy that's being proposed would take us to $12.31. We said that's too high. We need to look at this. And so Sean and his team came up with this proposed, out of a conversation with the vice president, we need to rebalance this. Let's look at that. What would that do? So when we rebalanced it, it took the residential tax rate from $12.31 down to $12.11. Okay. So which would be 4 cents higher if we normalized before we did anything with the budget, right? Everyone following? Okay. To further that tax rate, Sean and his team looked at the tangible rates. Okay. So previously, tangible rates, tax rates were, the tangible tax rate was always the same as the residential tax rate. Whatever the residential tax rate would be, the tangible tax rate would be the same. Okay. So years back, the state passed that mobile homes, they took them and they reclassified them as residential. They took them out of commercial. So the only thing really left there now is commercial as far as tangible goes. It's all commercial. So what we did was, what Sean and his team did was, and Mark and George, they took that and all tangibles are considered commercial. So by rebalancing this shifts the residential rate to $11.97. Okay. So now if you look at your commercial and tangible rate, the commercial rate and tangible rates will be the same now, instead of in the past where the residential and tangible rates will be the same. Okay. So what that does and on top of that, everybody that has a tangible, there'll be a $15,000 exemption for tangible property. Okay. So having said that, it goes from $11.90, it goes down to $11.97 The exemptions have to be paid for, correct? And so that drives it up to 3 cents to $12. That's the residential rate. So look at the normalized rate. Even just at the normalized rate, with not doing anything before the budget, with the 170,000 for the fire, for planning for that, the 1%, they're starting at 1%, the 300,000 contractual obligations to police, the $538,500, $580, I think it was, for the schools, and the things I mentioned earlier. Besides the vehicles don't come out of that. We'd be at 7 cents less than what we would be paying after the reval was normalized. So that's residential. As far as commercial goes, anybody have any questions about the residential rate and how we got there? Okay,
Clarification.
yes.
I just want to clarify that the tax rates are going down, that normalized rate. I'm not sure that everybody understands that the tax rate's going down because the assessments all went up. Do I have that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so.
That's what we call normalized, right?
Okay, and I just don't think that some people understand the accounting speak, because I'm still learning all of this myself. So,
Okay.
in any kind of multiplication, if you lower one number, you raise the other number to get to the same outcome. And the deduction of your rebalance, that is the proposal to move $500,000 from the residential side into the commercial side of taxpayers. Is that correct?
Terry, hang on 1 second. Sean?
I was just going to respond. I think the best way to answer that, since I originally used the word shift and we've changed it to rebalance, when the reval was completed, the revaluation pushed the levy from the commercial taxpayer onto the residential taxpayer. And what we're doing is, again, using that word normalizing, we're basically just trying to balance out, that event that took place that wasn't necessarily tied to a budget decision made by the council.
Right. Okay.
I have a question real quick. Question on that.
Hang on 1 second. Terry.
Am I hanging on, or am I proceeding?
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Dennis was trying
My
to speak.
apologies. But is that not, did the commercial side not have their tax burden, so to speak, go up as much because their property values stayed flatter? They did not gain as much in value?
Decreased. There was only 12% of them that went up.
In value?
Yes.
Well, so you've got people with lesser flat value paying more taxes.
In commercial?
Yes.
Yes. I haven't got there yet, but yes.
All right, I'll let you continue. I just wanted to clarify a few of the things that I have been asking about. And like I said, this is a proposal that is still a big question mark for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Sean if he could explain how did that 500 initially get shifted to the residential and now we're shifting it back?
So we were looking at the bottom line on the levy. And last year, for tax year 2020, the commercial levy was about $500,000 than it would have been at the normalized rate right now. It was about 11,000, no, it's 12,002, and then it dropped down to 11,700. So the amount of revenue that we would be raising from the commercial side actually decreased under these current circumstances because the rate of value increase was so much less for commercial properties than it was for residential properties. So there was a gap between the commercial levy last year and the gap and this year, or that's coming up, of about $500,000.
Right. So being optimistic, the market comes back. And 3 years from now, their commercial real estate goes back to where it was. Are we gonna then go and play with the numbers again?
The market didn't appreciate it. It appreciated. So
But not by
the
much.
numbers went up by about 7% for commercial versus 18% for residential. There was appreciation,
Okay.
and we can revisit it. And I would suggest that we do revisit it every reval year. And this is the only time when we get the opportunity to examine the spread between residential and commercial and tangible, and to act on it. And we just thought it was a prudent time because the levy against the residences went up so high, and the levy against the commercial went down, and then we thought that it would be best to kind of take the sting out of residential a little bit and keep the commercial levy at about the same level.
Okay.
Question? I just didn't catch, George, the commercial appraisal or assessments went up about 8%, you said, and the
Right.
residential assessments went up how much?
18.
18. I guess that's where I feel like you're kicking the businesses while they're down. They have that their tangible asset has not appreciated as much, and yet you're going to give them more taxes to pay. I just see an imbalance there.
So for an average commercial property under this year's taxes at $18.21 per thousand, the tax is $37,000. Under the normalized rate, the commercial tax would drop to $35,700. So their values are not increasing as rapidly. And under that scenario, if we don't do anything, the businesses will receive a drop, whereas the residents, the average homeowner will receive an increase. So we're just trying to bring those two a little bit closer together.
And I think that when, there have been a lot of email exchanges and, how many business properties do we have in town, George?
I use the number 290,
Okay.
but that does not include condominiums or land. It's just a classification that's been used for years.
And that's fine. So I guess I see, $500,000 being taken from residential property count is 5,200 or something. How many
Terry, we need to move this along.
Yeah.
Those figures, we all have those figures for a
All
long
right.
time already.
Well, we have them, but the public doesn't have them. And
We've discussed them in public already. We've had 2 public hearings. They've come out. I've seen, I don't know how many emails go back and forth. It's 9:35. We haven't touched the docket. So if you have questions, you're asking leading questions. If you have anything new to add it. If you don't, let's move it, okay?
well, I'm clarifying because we were getting answers to questions as of today. So I'm
Okay.
clarifying, Paul.
Okay. I just look at it as we're asking questions we all know. And we're asking
I'm glad
questions.
Okay. Because, again, I sent questions to clarify just to Sean this morning and got answers back. And thanks to all the staff for their responses.
Okay.
But
we need to move it along.
Issues with these averages and playing with, $500,000 from 5,200 properties to 290 business properties. And, some that might go up. I believe there's a list of 39 of them that will actually have a $12,000 increase in taxes unless that has not been confirmed.
Those are averages. Some of those have to do with new development in town.
It's a big increase.
It's not a matter of, their property is appreciated just by market forces. There was activities on those properties.
Okay. I mean, I look at it as you want to pass it on to the resident? You want to burden the resident more? because that's what'll happen if this isn't shifted. So that's up to the council. Mrs. Santos.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sturgeon, one quick question, explanation, please. When you say commercial, are you talking, say, like a restaurant? Or are you talking a residential house that has a rental property on it?
I'm talking about retail, which would include restaurants, freestanding restaurants.
Okay,
Apartments such as Northgate or Harbor Village. Anything over 5 units is considered to be a commercial property. Industrial uses that you might see in the corporate park, office buildings like we see next door. And that's pretty much it.
thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody have any further questions? Any further comments? There's a motion. What, Wendy, was it seconded? There's a motion is second.
Which
Any
motion
further-
is this?
What's that?
Which motion is this? But Mr.
Pass-
President,
To pass the budget.
with all of those line items that were read by Counselor Welch?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to go back to address the potential savings proposals that we have not talked about.
I just talked about a bunch of savings that maybe you don't agree with them, but I talked about savings. We went down from 4 police cars to 2, from 2 full-time employees down to 1.
Now, these would be the proposals that I have raised.
My proposal is not the same as yours, and there's a motion on the floor. If you'd like to talk about it, go right ahead, Terry.
That's what I'd like to talk about. So I would
Okay.
like to talk about if the council, regarding, let's talk first about the structural deficit. That was the first point on the slide from Mr. Brown, the administrator, where we could offer our residents savings. And instead of the 170,000 this first year, perhaps that could be lowered. So I'd like to know a discussion amongst the counselors if somebody else has an interest in that.
Does the council have an interest in going line by line with Councilor Flynn's proposal?
Move the question.
There's 3 of them.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Since there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded, the proper procedure would be if Councilor Flynn wishes to do so, to propose an amendment or amendments to what is already on the floor. Then
So, okay, Peter, I'm not exactly sure how to do that because I don't have all the line items and whatnot that are relevant because, we got a lot of this information just on the 2nd of June that I was able to run my analyses on. So how do you want to best do that?
I'd like the best vote on it right now because that's just me. I don't know what you're not in person here, Terry. So every counselor shook their head besides Dennis. I didn't see Dennis, that they were comfortable with what's proposed.
Well, but they just received the information on the.
That's up to them. We all received it at the same time.
Okay, so there is the structural deficit and the full-time employees, and I didn't hear much about the administrative reductions that Mr. Brown sent on the 4th, just Friday of June. Are those in here as well somewhere?
Yes, they are.
The question.
I was just covering the big topics because we all received those. So I should have covered that. I apologize.
No, that's fine, but there's a gap in connecting the dots here. So I guess the general conversation would simply be, does the council want to ease the burden of the taxpayers this current year and reduce the structural deficit, which is proposed to be 170,000? It can be reduced a little or a lot, or relook at some of those full-time employees that appeared to be able to be deferred, and that we did get emails and agreement from the public on that.
Terry, that's fine if they want to vote one by one, but there's a motion on the floor currently. So either you're going to amend that motion or we're going to
Okay.
vote on the motion.
All right,
Counselor
so,
Welch. Counselor Welch, hang on one sec, Terry.
yeah.
Thank you. Terry, I talked about this with you prior, and I'll just say it to everybody now. I am probably the only one that is in favor of taking the town administrator's original proposal, which is 3.62%. I wanted both full-time employees for DPW and among other things. So I am at the point where I am one that agrees with where we got to with all those line items. I don't pretend to understand exactly all the numbers, Terry, but I do agree in premise. 2% for the school, 1% for the fire, and 1% in operating costs, as we talked about tonight. So as far as I'm concerned, I appreciate all of your work, but I'm good to go.
Then that's perfectly fine. And like you said, you may not understand all the numbers, and I think a lot of us don't, because information has been coming, to this very point. So I guess, if I can, I'll amend the motion to reduce, I'll use my example, the structural deficit to $75,000 from $170,000, and reduce the building department by, a couple figures came out there, 75,000 or 92,000. I'm not sure if it's changed for a full-time employee. And Public Works, I think you've reduced it one position already. Is that true?
That's true. That was my proposal, yes.
And so really, I don't feel really ready for a motion. I want to know if the counselors, agree that these positions can be deferred.
Are you amending the motion or you're not amending the motion? But you started amending a motion and then you went left.
I'm sorry. So Peter, rules of protocol, I have to amend the motion and then it can be discussed?
You can make a motion to amend the motion that is pending, to change it in some way or ways. And then if that motion is seconded, then there can be discussion and ultimately a vote on your proposed amendment before the pending motion is voted.
Okay. Because this might turn into like another amendment. Can you
You can amend them all at once. Add them all in as an amendment, Terry.
But could then it be amended based on conversation?
Look. I mean, you're just dragging this thing on. I mean, it's just this is just
I'm
not
trying
right.
to follow procedure, and
He's telling you what the procedure is.
Okay, then I'll make an amendment to reduce the structural deficit to $75,000, to reduce the building department by the full-time employees, since the department's been vacant and we have the public safety interns, and to reduce the public works departments by 2 full-time employees, since between last year and this year, in the last 8 years, there's been really no change in inventories of the town.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Do we need to restate the original motion? No. Okay. Thank you, Terry. I'm sorry to get testy with you, but it's just, maybe it's just me. So, okay.
It's just the process, Paul.
I understand. It's being a very long process. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor currently. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
This is for the budget, all of these lines?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm opposed.
I see the thumb. Okay. Thank you so much. We have a budget.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
may I take this opportunity to thank Sean,
Yes.
Mark, Elaine, George, for all the hard work, for all the emails that have come to your offices, that you are asked questions that they expect a reply ASAP. Thank you for your hard work. I've been there and things have certainly changed a hell of a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment too.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I gotta say that this budget process, we gotta figure out a better way because it has just been ridiculous. I mean, Terry's right. We're getting numbers as of today. Okay. I got questions, didn't get answered. Okay. I know the vote's in. I know this is going to go. I knew it was going through before I even came tonight. Okay. This process isn't fair. We got to find a better way of doing this. Sean runs the town. I talked to Tom about this the other day. So we should start planning what next year's budget's going to be. So let's just start looking at it and saying, okay, well, next year will be 2%, and the year after that will be 2%. Then you can count on he's going to have 2% next year, 2% the year after that, and have him come tell us what he needs to use that for. For us to sit and pick through this thing, I've done it now for 4 years. This is the 5th year. This is a bad process.
So anytime you feel that you have a question, I don't think you're afraid to ask it. If you have questions, ask it.
I have.
I mean, there's one
I don't get
person,
answers.
there's one council that asked 30 questions already. So, I mean, the questions are here to be asked. I mean, if you don't talk and you don't get a consensus,
We
you'll
get
never-
told,
you'll never, let me
I've been
finish.
told I
Let me
asked-
finish.
Okay, go
You'll never
ahead.
get a budget.
Yeah.
And we'll never get anything done if we keep sending emails after email after email. That's redundant. It's insane. You talk about ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's why we're not getting anything done.
Well, let me just add to that. So I've been told by several counselors that we ask too many questions and that we should get all our answers or questions answered before we come to the meeting. Right?
Yes, sir.
Which we don't always get answers.
No.
So then we do have to ask the question.
Yes.
And sometimes you ask the question because that's how the public can get the information because they're not reading our emails.
Comment?
Yes, ma'am.
And, there wouldn't be a need to ask questions if full documentation was provided ahead of time. Budgets aren't to be negotiated, they're to be justified. This is other people's money.
Terry, I've done it for 17 years. I think I understand the process, and I've been very frugal over the years, and I'll continue to be frugal on what I think is nice versus necessary. If we don't agree, that's okay. That's a good diversity of opinion. But you amended your motion. You had that opportunity on what you thought. It didn't pass, and that's okay.
And the votes are public.
That they are. They sure are public. But on one hand, you can't say you want to raise taxes, not raise taxes, and then want to shift the burden, not shift the burden to businesses when you want to shift the burden to residents. So you can't have it both ways.
Well, and things were not very
That's
well
just my
explained and vetted. No.
Okay. I agree with vetting.
Okay, let's do the docket. We've got the budget, so let's move on.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right, motion to adopt said ordinance on its second reading as amended.
Second?
Motion is second to adopt said ordinance in second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 4, continue.
Wait a minute, was that the budget ordinance or something different?
That's it.
Yeah.
You
no,
opposed?
I am.
Okay. Number 4, continued from May 26, 2021, special meeting resolution of the council in reference to levy resolution.
Motion to amend the levy resolution from taxes net of exemptions shall be in the sum of not less than $47,600,000 or nor more than $48,100,000 to read as taxes net of exemptions shall be in the sum not less than $48,400,000 or nor more than $48,900,000.
Second.
You can do them together, or you're gonna do them separate? Okay, motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Is this
Anybody
still the-
opposed?
This is still the budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, no, opposed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, motion to pass said resolution on its second reading as amended.
Second.
Motion is second to pass that resolution on second reading as amended. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
I'm opposing.
Okay. Thank you. Public forum, number 5, pursuant to Rule 25, Rules of the Council, citizens may address the town council on one subject only. Said subject of substantive town business, neither discussed during the regular meeting nor related to personnel or job performance. Citizens may speak for no longer than 5 minutes and must either dropped off for public participation request at town hall or emailed to both wmarshall@middletownri.com and kclancy@middletownri.com at least 30 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. All items discussed during this session will not be voted upon. No longer than 15 minutes total for the public forum. Do we have any forms? We do not. Excellent.
Motion to act as Board of License Commission.
Second.
Motion to second act Board of License Commission. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, acting as a Board of License Commission, number 6, application of Sprout and Lentil, LLC DBA Sprout and Lentil, 796 Aquinic Ave, Unit 3, for a Class BL liquor license for the use at the same premises. This is new and requires advertising for a future public hearing and notification to abutters.
Motion to receive application, advertise for public hearing to be held on June 21st, 2021, and notify abutters.
Second.
Motion is second to advertise and notify abutters. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Number 7, communication of Attorney Christopher Bean in reference to Class BL liquor license, application of Cardinal Restaurant Corp., property 159 West Main Road, Middletown, Rye, Plat 108, Lot 45, request of council to exceed the cap on Class B liquor licenses.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
We have a motion, a second to receive. Discussion. So I think I need some guidance. I've never, as long as I've ever been involved, I've never seen this before.
The last time we exceeded or someone requested, it was back in there was a discussion, it was back in 2000, but the last time they did 1999 is when they went to 39.
And
So
stayed the same.
is it a big deal? I mean, I don't, I'm always uneasy, when it comes to that type of thing.
It's not done by ordinance, it's done by vote. It took me a while to find it, because we haven't done it in so long.
Yeah, I've never seen it,
So, the council has the right to exceed the cap, so what they do is they add. So, I mean, I went back years where they had.
Can Wendy speak into her microphone, please?
I went back years where they had like 12 licenses, and then the next year they granted another one. So they would add them often. So we haven't done it since 1997, we had 37. In 1999, we went from 37 to 39. And then we were asked about exceeding the cap one other time, but the council didn't need to do it because they withdrew their application.
Okay. Mrs. Santos.
You want to go first, sir?
Mrs. Santos,
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome.
Blunt's Restaurant is closed. Do they have a liquor license?
You mean Plumby's?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. Plumby's has closed. However, they haven't said whether they were going to turn their liquor license in or if they're going to transfer to someone else.
Thank you.
Council Welch.
I'm just asking anybody that knows what would be the downside of granting this.
Just more places selling alcohol, really. I mean, if you.
Then I'm in.
Okay.
Attorney
Mr. President?
on if you'd
I'm not sure we need to, with all due respect, I'm not sure we need to hear from that, from Chris. Unless he has something to add. He does. Okay. He does have his hand up. Bring in Attorney Bean. Good evening, Chris. Please unmute. Please unmute, sir.
Attorney Christian, 294 Valley Road, Middletown. Good evening, members of the Board of License Commissioners. The only thing I wanted to add, I know it's been a long night for you, in terms of this license for Cardinal, the IHOP restaurant on West Main Road, this would only be a beer and wine license, a BL license. And to tell you the truth, in terms of their total sales of at that restaurant, the sale of the beer and wine would only be approximately 2% of their overall sales. So they would abide by any restrictions the board wanted to place on it. The sale of the alcohol would only be incidental if you had concerns about another liquor establishment in town.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Listening.
Oh, Mr. Bean? Mr.
Yes.
Bean? Hi, could I,
Council Flynn, go right ahead.
thank you. I wanted to catch him. My apologies, Mr. President.
No problem, ma'am.
I'm wondering if a copy of the request from the franchisor about the policy now where they're asking all of their franchisees to do this, could we get a copy of that?
Yes, we could. Yes, I'd have to request it now. But that would. I'm sorry.
No, my pardon. It's my computer.
Okay. Yes, we can get that to
Okay.
the board.
Yep, thank you. And I have a question for Wendy, Mr. President, when.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Thank you. Wendy, you made a comment about you were not sure if Plumby's were turning their liquor license in or transferring it. I didn't think that businesses could transfer their liquor licenses.
If somebody is going to be renting that space, they could transfer their liquor license. They can keep it on that premise. It expires December 31st. For all I know, they could want to open up again. So the transfer would be within that same building. They can't transfer somewhere else.
And it's subject to approval by the
To
council.
approval by the council.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I didn't think it followed the location, but followed the applicant.
No, it doesn't follow the applicant.
But we still get to approve if it's a different.
Correct.
Okay.
You get to approve if it's a different entity.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second to receive said communication. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, the thumbs up. All right.
Motion,
Go ahead, Mr. Welch.
motion to adjust the current cap on Class B alcoholic beverage licenses by increasing the number of Class B licenses from 39 to 40.
Second.
Question.
Yes.
Do we have to do that before the advertising and public hearing? It seems premature.
May I speak?
All we're doing is adjusting the cap.
I know. But if we don't need it, we've raised it without.
No, that's a good point, though, you bring up.
It is a good point, but we wouldn't want them to pay for advertising and find out the council didn't want to exceed the cap.
Okay.
Fair.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Okay.
Yes, thank
Motion, thank you for the question. Motion in a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, excellent. Let's move on. Application of Cardinal Restaurant Corp. DBA IHOP 159 West Main Road for a Class BL liquor license for the use of same premises. Requires advertising. This is new, requires advertising for future public hearing and notification to abutters.
Motion to receive the application, advertise for public hearing to be held on June 21st, 2021, and notify the abutters.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay,
Was there a date? Oh, was there a date on that motion?
yeah, June 21st, 2021.
Thank you.
Motion to reconvene as town council.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent calendar. Anybody like to take anything off the consent calendar?
I would.
What number?
12, 13, 14, and 15.
Is that the LNG stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Great minds think alike.
You're
Okay.
gonna take it off too?
I was.
All right. You can go first. then.
That's been a hot topic. No, you go ahead, because it's a hot topic. Okay.
Motion to adopt the consent calendar minus numbers 12, 13, 14, and 15.
Second.
Motion is second to adopt the consent calendar minus items 12, 13, 14, and 15. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Number 12, communication of Emma Rodvian, Coordinator, Rhode Island Energy Facility Siting Board, in reference to application filed by Narragansett Electric Company for a license to mobilize and operate a liquefied natural gas LNG vaporization facility at property located at Old Mill Lane in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. Council action is just to receive the information.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
Discussion. Council Toronto.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you just said, it's a hot topic. It was
Yep.
just actually in the paper where some lawsuits are moving forward by some Middletown residents and Newport residents. And there's been a number of hearings that have been on this topic recently.
Yeah.
And so I just think anything associated with this, they should come in person and talk to us about it.
Yeah, I agree, especially as hot as it was with the concern of the residents out there. We have Teresa's school out there, the residents that live out there. Peter, have they given any indication of any type of solution, or is this thing gonna?
And Sean and I had a conversation about this when this first came out, because the question that I had is there any change to the plan? They have been looking for a long-term solution to the problem with the request to continue operating the temporary facility on Old Mill Lane in the interim. And so one of the questions that we had when we first got these new filings was whether this reflected a change in that plan or that policy. My understanding, that Sean spoke with his contact at National Grid, and this is really just in order to maintain the status quo as that process proceeds. However, we have intervened in the actions in front of the PUC and the energy facility siting boards, and we will be meeting to review that to make sure that that is in fact the case and that the town is protected. And it may actually be something that, since it does concern litigation, that we could put on for an executive session
Okay.
discussion at the next meeting.
Okay.
Sean, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but
So the only thing I would add for this particular item is this is what we wanted to happen. National Grid has a filing, originally was that they wanted to continue to operate at Old Mill Lane, but they wanted to do so without the involvement of the PUC. And that's one of the matters that Marissa intervened on. And when the PUC met, or the siting board met, they said, yes, they said, no, you can't go around us. You still have to come to us to ask for that ability to operate temporarily. So that's what we asked for. And that's the outcome that's represented here tonight in the work that Marissa did. Otherwise, what probably would have happened is the town of Portsmouth would argue that if it wasn't the siting board, it would be their zoning board in the town of Portsmouth. And we really wanted the state's siting board to be the authority on this matter.
Okay.
And then to Peter's point, the discussion we need to have, National Grid still has to make their filing for a long-term solution. And they're required to do that towards the end of the calendar year. And they are They have periodic meetings with the PUC and the siting board and the state about that. Once those solutions are identified, we'll get another filing, and that's when I think the next round of real discussion will take place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You want to go there? Mr.
No, you go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Sean or Peter, has there been any communication from the town of Portsmouth regarding this?
Attorney Desitel and myself, and I think Peter's been on calls where they have their own attorney and their own expert that are also filing motions in these actions. So there is discussion. And so far, we're sort of in alignment with what we want, but that's where it's going to start. It's on this one matter, the temporary setting at Old Mill Lane. When they get to a long-term solution, that's when you're going to see the three communities, I think, diverge a little bit on what they want to see for a long-term solution. But again, we need to wait for National Grid to, make their proposal.
Thank you.
Council Toronto.
Yes, I've been looking into this a little bit, and actually the PUC had an information session on Tuesday, May 18th. National Grid on gas capacity reliability on Aquidneck Island. The Public Utility Commission will hold information session to receive presentation by Narragansett Electric Company, DBA, National Grid regarding the company's evaluation of alternatives to address gas capacity constraints, reliability issues on Aquidneck Island. So there's a video of that meeting, and I'd like to see if maybe we could put that on our website so that residents who are interested in hearing more about it can find it on our website.
Okay.
And I just forwarded the town council a copy of that email.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. President, we have someone raising their hand.
Okay. You just have to unmute and state your name and address for the record, please. Can you hear us? You have to unmute. *6 will unmute you. We're trying to listen to you, but we can't hear you because you're muted. *6 will unmute you, okay? Okay. No, well, we'll come back to that person if we can, okay? Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Teresa.
Oh, thank you. Teresa Spangler, 1111 Wapping Road. I know this, as somebody has mentioned, this is a hot topic, and it is obviously a very big concern for us residents that live so close by on the Portsmouth Middletown line. And I know there's a lot of meetings and a lot of people are involved in this, and it's greatly appreciated. I know by myself and several residents in the Mitchell's Lane and Wapping Road, Baldwin Bartlett area. But I just want to emphasize as a resident that we pay very high taxes to live in this community. We live here for a reason. And to have an organization like this come in and potentially bring a dangerous situation amongst our residential community is very concerning. So I really do hope that the town stays on top of this and ensures that this doesn't become a permanent facility in the middle of residential neighborhood with huge trucks coming and going all throughout the year. So I just really hope that we're making good use of that woman, Marissa, and apologize, I don't know her last name, that we're taking up the opportunity to make sure that we're really getting the best interest for our town and ensuring the safety of all of our residents, school children on the sides of the roads, buses, picking up kids with all these big trucks coming and going. It's a really big concern. So I do appreciate the town addressing it, and I really hope that we stay on top of it, because as someone just mentioned, more topics going to happen by the end of this calendar year, what they're going to do with a permanent solution. So I just wanted to comment and say thank you, and please let's stay on top of this for the safety and well-being of our residents. Thank you.
We will. Thank you, Teresa. Okay. Yeah, let's try the other resident. All we see is the name Horvathi. If you could just unmute yourself by pressing *6.
Karen, you can't unmute them yourself. That being
They have to do it from their own device.
really?
Yeah. She can mute them if you wanted to.
Everybody.
She can.
And then unmute.
She can't. She can. She can mute them, but they can't. They have to unmute their own device. Yeah. Could you just unmute, please? Just press *6. Okay. I apologize, but we're going to have to move on because we cannot hear you. If you're having technical difficulties, we apologize. Okay. Okay. So number 12, we had a motion and a second to receive. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Number 13, communication George W. Watson III, Robertson and Cole in reference to the Narragansett Electric Company does business as National Grid Portable LNG Vaporization Project, Old Mill Lane, Portsmouth, Rhode Island, EFSB application. Council action to receive his information.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Number 14, communication Mark R. Riley, Assistant General Counsel and Director, National Grid Service Company Incorporated, in reference to notice of temporary mobilization of LNG equipment, Old Mill Lane, Portsmouth, June 2nd and June 9th, 2021. Council action to receive as information.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive. Any further discussion?
I do.
Dennis?
Now, Sean, you're in conversation with these folks in regards to this moving and all this information. So we can rest assured you're on top of this.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. You're in conversation with National Grid in regards to this mobilization and safety protocol and things along those lines?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Motion and second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Communication of Alexander Day, Director and Compliance Assurance. Any reference to notification, mobile and temporary LNG facilities, 49 CFR 193.2019 to Mr. Robert Bailey, Associate Public Utilities Administrator for Engineering and Pipeline Safety, Rhode Island Gas Safety Program Manager, Rhode Island Division of Public Utilities and Carriers, and the council action is to receive his information.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second.
Motion is second to receive. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for bringing those up, Dennis. Number
Thank you.
16, continued from the May 3rd. Oh, no, sorry. That's still consent. Let's move on to licenses. I was on a roll. Number 18, application of Pete's Ice Cream, Portsmouth, Rhode Island, for a mobile food establishment license for the 2021-2022 licensing year. This is new.
Motion to grant said license.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant. Any discussion? Wendy?
Mr. President, when I spoke to Mr.
Kelly?
Kelly, he wanted to be able to pedal around town. Our ordinance doesn't allow for that right now. It just, you have to be stationary and it's basically just in the office part. So, well, I'm sorry, in corporate part. I don't know if Mr. Kelly is on, but that's what his request was, is to pedal through the town. That is what this license does to me.
See, I think for me personally, and I can't speak for everybody, when the council passed this, I don't think we took into consideration ones like this, where those were mobile food trucks. This is, I guess, food, ice cream. I mean, it's been going on for years, so I don't, Peter, what's?
It's the same, under the new state law, there's trucks and there's carts. And so if I'm selling ice cream from a truck or hamburgers or pizza from a truck, it's the same license. that comes from the state. And so we do have geographical restrictions on where in town these can operate. So I don't know whether we'd be in a position to say that one mobile food truck with a certain type of product is able to operate different in a larger area than ones that are serving other types of products.
Is it something you can get back to us on?
I'll be happy to take a look at.
Yeah. Because for me, I mean, you know, I never considered Pete's Ice Cream to be a food truck. You know, he's been doing ice cream for years and I kind of like the music.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know what the pleasure of the council is. I mean, are you guys okay with Peter taking a look at this, or do you think it should just be by what the state law says?
Peter, look at it.
Okay,
I agree.
Look at it.
I'll look at it.
take a look at it. Okay. I just don't think they fall into that category, but that's me personally.
Do you want to continue this?
Yes.
meeting?
Yes. So a motion to continue to the next meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
I'm opposed.
You're opposed?
I am.
You are?
I am.
Okay.
You didn't ask. I'm just making.
I apologize. I just assumed that I shouldn't have.
You want ice cream delivered here, right?
Not from him.
Okay. Number 19, application for special event permit for East Bay Community Action Program for the Molar Express to be held on July 1st, 2nd, 8th, 27th, 30th, 2021 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. to be held at Lincoln Park, to be held at Linden Park. Applicant respectfully requests all fees to be waived.
Motion to grant said special event permit and waive all fees.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. This is a great thing that they do. They do this yearly, right? And they provide dental work for the underprivileged, and I think it's just a great thing that they do. So, any further discussion? We have a motion, a second. All in favor? Aye. Number 20, application for special event permit for the Inner Light Center and Yoga meditation for beach yoga to be held on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, May 31st through September 6th, 2021 at Surfers End in designated fitness area at Second Beach from 6:45 a.m. to 7:45 a.m.
Motion to grant said special event permit.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Weren't we trying to keep people away from Surfers End?
We are. I was gonna mention that. Yeah, we're gonna have to go to the east of the Big Rock.
Right.
Sean, Will's managing that process, right?
Yes.
One of my questions was gonna be similar to Dennis, not just the location, but we get a lot of these permits. And that's fine, but I mean, is there a schedule on who does what on what day? And I mean, a lot of them have to overlap, I would think. And I just want to make sure, and who's policing it at that time in the morning?
So we've been meeting Tuesdays and reviewing issues with the concessionaires, the license holders down there.
Okay,
And there are two issues that we're addressing. We've had an issue with parking.
I can't hear you, Sean.
We've had an issue with parking with one of the concessionaires, and we've had an issue with fitness activities taking place in the Surfers End parking lot, which we're addressing. But I think my point is we are actively reviewing
good.
this daily. Will gets down there early. It's a matter, we reviewed the beach operations. Beach staff are meeting every Tuesday morning,
Yeah,
and these are issues that we are addressing routinely.
excellent, because I think it's a good thing to have it down there, but you know, the ones that aren't complying with the rules, when their license comes for renewal, we need to know that.
Nope, and we talked
Okay.
about that when the proposal was to go to concessionaires and,
Okay,
you know, I had brought up their issues and the council was then
yeah,
address the issues immediately, and that's what we're doing.
okay. We have a motion, a second to grant special event permit. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Number 21, application of SB Newport, Rhode Island, DBA Studio Bar, Newport, 692 Aquinic Avenue for a holiday sales license for the 2021-2022 licensing year. This is new.
Motion to grant said license.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant said license. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. This one here, we have an addendum to it, okay? And it should be, I don't know where it is. Okay. Licenses number 21A, application for special event permit for Gnome Surf lessons to be held at Second Beach on Wednesdays beginning July 7th, 2021 to September 8th, 2021 from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Fridays beginning July 9th, 2021 to September 10th, 2021 from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and Saturdays beginning July 10th, 2021 to October 16th, 2021 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the applicant respectfully requests all fees to be waived.
Motion to grant said special event permit and waive all fees.
Second, and a question.
So we have a motion and a second discussion.
Yes, do they charge the applicants?
I thought it was a $10. No, I don't know if they do or not. I saw a $10 fee somewhere. I'm not sure if there's that one or not.
I think they use grant funding and things like that. right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great event,
Yeah.
you know? He does? Okay.
Yeah, I just, I'm the founder of Gnome Surf. I just wanted to say,
Chris, hang on one second, please.
sorry.
Council Von Villas.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm asking the right question, but I'm looking at this and it says Second Beach, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Yes, that's
throughout
correct.
The summer. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't, we talked about, vendors or something like that, people doing things on the beach.
Yep.
We're already concerned about surfers in. Now we're talking about
Mhm.
people doing something, conducting what amounts to what lessons, okay?
It's lessons for children, underprivileged children, yes.
Okay, I'm just asking.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Chris, just your name and address.
I will have the same look, but I just wanted to point out, they said they're like 8 people.
Yeah.
Five,
Yeah.
One kid,
5 to
one
10
kid in
people.
the water.
Yeah.
Good, that's good.
Five-
Okay.
That's my
I had the
question. Thank you.
same thought.
Yeah, Chris, just your name and address for the record, please.
Christopher Anteo, 15 Main Street in Adamsville, Rhode Island. I'm the founder of Gnome Surf. I just wanted to put your minds at ease a little bit, and just let you know that it's actually on the weekdays. We're going to eliminate some of those morning hours, and so it won't be as many. And when we are there, it's individual one-on-one. So it's literally an instructor and a child in the water. And we surf with kids it's not surf lessons, it's surf therapy. And we surf with kids with autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, depression, and anxiety. So it's very, very, very low key. So if you have any other questions, I'm here to answer them. But it's not your typical surf lessons or fitness. We're just getting kids out there and increasing their happiness and self-confidence.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing that you're doing. And then we've got we received a lot of letters of support. And I think it's fantastic. So keep up the great work. And I think we'll certainly support this. So
Thank you
any
very
further
much.
discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to grant the permit. All in favor and waive all fees? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. Let's go number 22, ordinance. In order to the 21B. Oh, yeah, here it is right here. I knew there was an addendum. Thank you, Dennis. Dennis I do think I got Teresa on the left and Dennis on the right. If one misses me, the other one gets me. 21B, application for special event permit for Gnome Surf Camp to be held at Second Beach, Monday, July 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd, 2021, and August 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Applicants respectfully request all fees to be waived.
Motion to grant said special event permit and waive all fees.
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Good luck, Chris. Okay. 22, An ordinance to the town, ordinance to the town of Middletown, first reading. An ordinance to the town code, Title 9, Chapter 94, entitled Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places, amended by adding a new subsection A to section 94.99, entitled Penalty.
Motion to receive said ordinance on its first reading.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to receive ordinance in its first reading. Discussion. Okay.
Oh, question?
Yes, ma'am.
Just clarification. So apparently this is just because the new letter B already states the $100 fine. So the new letter A is simply increasing that fine and adding more parameters. Is that how I'm reading it?
Mr. President, just real briefly, so this does two things. First of all, it allows on a first offense, this relates to not shoveling the sidewalk during a snowstorm, gives the town the option to give someone a pay-by-mail citation on a first offense, which we don't have the opportunity to do now. Anyone who we cite on this for this offense has to get hauled into municipal court. This just gives the property owner who cited the opportunity to pay by mail. And then it does increase the fine for second and third offenses within a 12-month period.
Okay. Terry, does that answer your question?
It does. And I know there's a program for those who are incapable of clearing their sidewalks to make sure that they get into that program. There's a list in the administrator's office, I believe. We talked
Yes.
about this.
That is correct.
Okay.
So,
I think that needs to be very well publicized
yep, excellent.
amongst that population.
Okay. So we have a motion to second to adopt on its first reading. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Number 23, other communication from Simon Cousins, Island Elements, Island Surf and Sport, Elemental Surf and Skate, 86 Aquinic Avenue, in reference to requesting a reduction in fees for the Surface End Beach Equipment Concession.
Motion to receive said communication.
second,
Motion is second to receive. Council Clerk, please note the town solicitor has recused himself from this item. Okay, he came to me before and let me know, so I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. So Sean, Simon's looking for reduction because of the parking, resident-only parking. Is that what he's referring to?
Correct.
So our residents don't spend money?
They don't rent surfboards
They don't rent surfboards.
or take surf lessons.
But we're allowing parking right across the triangle.
Right. And the only other thing we haven't done is open the St. George's lot. So,
Okay.
so that is something we haven't done. And I think it's something we could consider doing.
Okay, do you have a recommendation?
I think after watching the operations this past weekend, I think we could open up the St. George's lot. Not overcrowd it, but I believe it's a space. I think the one thing that's concerning to me, and is foot traffic. The people walking from that lot across Paradise Avenue and then navigating from Tri-A over to the surfers lot. So now I'm talking myself out of it. I think we can operate St. George's lot. I'm concerned about the safety. That's where I'm at with it.
So you don't recommend a reduction? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you would know more about it than the rest of us,
I think
based on the operations.
his revenue, his ability to generate revenue is less. So I think it's justified.
You think the reduction is justified?
I do. I think.
Okay. Council Welch.
Thanks, Sean. So if you were to open up the St. George's lot, does that equal out, would that be non-residents?
Well, I think
Only?
when we open the St. George's lot, then I'm going to increase expenses to get people safely across Paradise Avenue. So one of the major problems we've had down in that area is the congestion of traffic coming down the hill and down Paradise Avenue and having another entrance exit type activity. And then you have the people walking and it's over congested. So we end up posting 2 police officers, one at over by Tri-A and the Surfers End, and then one over at that lot to get people in and out of the lot. So I think that's when you open that second lot, then you've got to consider that while you're operating it, you're now paying a policeman or a public safety person to direct traffic. And then the other piece is we still haven't resolved the safety concern just in general with people crossing the roads. So as I sit here tonight at this hour, my suggestion would be to leave the St. George's lot closed and make the adjustment to Simon's contract. It's the last year of the agreement, so I think it's reasonable. And then when we settle on what the final operation is, we could revisit it, or it would be revisited during the bid process.
I can't hear you, Sean.
I'm sorry. We would end up revisiting it. It's the last year of the contract, so it would get rebid out next year anyway.
Okay. Council Welch?
Yeah, and I just thank you for that. I certainly agree that Simon has legitimate concern.
Okay.
So without St. George's lot, I agree.
Okay. Council Santos?
Mr. Brown, did you say you were not going to open St. George's lot? Did I hear you say that?
I would open St. George's lot when we can do it safely.
All right.
That
And
would,
with that being said, would a crosswalk help that area?
I think so. I think there's a number of traffic changes that need to take place. We did purchase with this beach season, they're called delineators. Those are the tall telephone, orange cones. So we're going to start implementing, putting some new traffic patterns down there to try to slow down traffic and make it safer for people to get across the roadways. So I think that's something that we'll aggressively work on over the next few weeks with recommendations that we had gotten from traffic engineer, as well as recommendations from Bill Seipel from the Beach Commission. But I'd really like to see those work out, because even this past weekend when I was down there, because now you have a lot of non-residents crossing the road, they bring a lot of stuff because they're going to be there for the day once they get into the lot, and they have children, and you just have that traffic, and I know this is something that the committee, made recommendations on to look at this and get it straightened out. They're carrying too much speed down into that area. And again, it's narrow. We need a place where people cross so it's predictable, so drivers don't have people all over the place. So yes, crosswalk, some sort of pattern and plan.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So we have a motion, a second to receive. Let's do that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now we would need a motion for you, Sean, you to execute the reduction, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I got it. Motion to reduce the Surfers End Beach Equipment Concession Fee from $27,000 to $18,000 for island elements.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So it's 10:35. Looking at this, I think we could probably get it done, but it's up to you guys. You tell me what you want to do.
Yes,
have
with no
rules?
questions.
What's that?
Yes, no questions.
Yes, no questions. Okay. Council Santos, are you okay?
I agree with Mr. Welch. If
I can't
there-
guarantee that.
You guys been having coffee together, haven't
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I said thank you,
Finished,
Mr. President.
Flynn.
Pardon me?
I have not finished.
Hang on 1 second, Terry. Go ahead.
If we finish this docket with no questions, and I say we continue, no questions allowed.
I can't guarantee any questions.
Well, then I say we close shop.
Okay. So Tom, you're in favor. Mrs. Vaughn, you're in favor. I'm okay. Dennis, you're okay. Chris, you're okay. Terry, you're okay.
No, I would close shop too.
You close shop. We have 5-2. So we're going to continue on. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you. Number 24, memorandum of the council, memorandum of council president in reference to appointment of assistant town solicitor.
Motion to receive said memorandum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive. All in favor? Aye.
Conversation.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So this was sort of a surprise with no backup information. And typically when we nominate, attorneys like we do, at the leadership meeting, everybody gets an opportunity to nominate. But this just came
So
up.
Terry, excuse me, this is just somebody that's added to Peter's law firm. So it's not any additional, it's part of the solicitor group.
Yeah, this is someone who was actually, was hired recently to replace Mark Boyven, who was previously an assistant solicitor who left around the beginning of the pandemic. And so this is a new associate in my office who will be assisting me with my work for the town. So
And he needs assisting.
I need a lot of assistance.
So while we're on, may I continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I know, Peter, you need to recuse on a number of items we observe. And I wonder if we need to get somebody outside the firm.
That's at the discretion of the council. This is somebody inside my firm who is going to be assisting me with work for the town. And as I said, this person is replacing someone else who was previously in my office who was an assistant solicitor.
So nothing's changed from before, Terry, besides the names.
Okay, again, the procedural thing, I guess I see some inconsistency with. Thought I'd inquire.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Motion to appoint Michael E. Monty as an assistant town solicitor.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to appoint Michael E. Monty as assistant town solicitor. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Town clerk Wendy Marshall will swear Mr. Monty in at a later date.
Second?
I don't think that's a motion. He's just saying announcement. But you're on top of it. I appreciate it. Number 25, communication of Council Toronto, reference to Middletown Affordable Housing Committees.
Motion received said communication.
Can I second that one?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Second?
Motion is second to receive. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Dennis.
Question for Wendy. I was just curious. Is there two?
We want to
Three.
know.
So by looking at just some of the details, we have a senior affordable housing committee. And we have an affordable housing committee. And do we have another affordable housing committee? Just those two?
So if you want to combine those two.
Okay.
The motion would be to consolidate those two.
Yes, okay. I just want to make sure I was clear on that. So I'd like to make a motion to combine the Affordable Housing Committee and the Senior Affordable Housing Committee to form one committee for affordable housing.
Second. That sounds good. So any further discussion? Okay, excellent. Motion is second to combine the two committees to form one committee, and it'll be named the Affordable Housing Committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Excellent. So this one here will have an addendum to this one as well. 25A, Town Council Business. Memorandum of Town Solicitor in reference to Coin Mechanical Incorporated bid protest.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We got to receive it,
Motion
Pete.
received said memorandum.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's why he needs an assistant.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. President. This matter involves a bid protest filed by.
Could Peter speak into his microphone more, please?
I am. Filed by Coin Mechanical regarding the contract for HVAC upgrades to Middletown High School and Aquidneck School. I provided a memo to the council with detailed background of this matter and supporting documentation. Briefly, Coin Mechanical submitted the lowest bid for this project. However, the school committee found that bid to be non-responsible for a number of reasons, all of which are detailed in my memo. First and foremost of those was Coin's failure to meet the requirement that 10% of the contract value be awarded to minority business enterprises. That was a material condition of the contract. More importantly, it is a requirement under state law for the town to be entitled to be reimbursed for the project from the state. And we expect the reimbursement for this project to be in the range of 35% on a contract of this size. That's a substantial number. In addition, Coin Mechanical failed to comply with other requirements of the bid. And based on all those factors, it's my opinion that the school department and school committee's decision not to award the contract to Coin was more than justified. I do believe, however, Mr. Coin is on the line and would like to be heard on this before the council makes a decision. And under the ordinance, it is the council that decides bid protest, whether it is on the town side or the school side.
Okay. So is Mr. Coin on?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Hey, good evening. How are you? Just your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Timothy Coyne. I'm at 347 Turtleot Hill Road in Japatchit, Rhode Island.
Okay.
First
Go
of all,
ahead, Jim. You have roughly 5 minutes. Okay, sir?
absolutely. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak. This bid was opened on April 1st. I was asked to go to the scope review meeting, which is basically a meeting that I get asked what I included, what I didn't include, just to make sure I have everything. I did receive, after the school committee meeting on April 15th, I did write emails to every school committee member asking why I did not get awarded this job. I was approximately $200,000 low. No matter which lawyer's letter you want to look at, whether it's your counsel or the school committee's counsel or the letter from the administrator, they all basically say the same thing, that I failed to present certain items at the scope review. It was probably the strangest scope review I've ever attended in 42 years. Everything that I was asked to bring was a little strange, a couple items inappropriate. However, I brought everyone. If you look at any one of the responses I got from your town, the schedule of values, which was an odd request, it was stated I did not bring a schedule of values, when in fact I brought 3. The schedule, I brought a schedule and it was discussed at length. It was also brought up that I did not acknowledge addendum 2 on the bid form. The town failed to post addendum 2 on the state website, which pretty much made the RFP non-compliant. But I actually didn't have a problem with that. Prior to the scope review, or at the scope review, I did acknowledge that I did see addendum 2. Addendum 2 was very bland. It didn't have any effect on any numbers, didn't have any effect on the town. The discussion of the list of subcontractors was not presented. I did present a list of subcontractors. You guys hired Robinson, Green and Beretta to bring you through the bid process. They were at the scope review, but for some reason they did not get a seat at the table later on when it was for a recommendation of a contractor. I almost fell off my chair when they made the award to the second place bidder. You basically spent $181,600 to get the high school done and only one of the alternates for Aquidneck Elementary School. I was $181,000 low, and quite frankly, if you wanted to save $50,000, I would do I was doing the base bid plus both wings at Aquidneck Elementary School. The part that bothers me is this is probably COVID money. This is all about fresh air. So you basically spend $181,000. You're only getting 2/3 of the job. And if I was a taxpayer, I'd be a little upset. And if I also was a parent that had a child in that particular wing of Aquidneck Elementary School, that child isn't getting any fresh air this year coming up. Again, for everything in pick any of the letters that you guys sent me, because of the procedure that you had, the school committee wound up with inaccurate information. And that's really what I had a problem with. I absolutely had all these things at this scope review meeting. I don't know why Robinson Green and Beretta didn't have a seat at the table. I did contact them. They had a list of subcontractors. They had everything that you said I didn't bring to the table. They have all that. I was floored when I thought I assumed the school committee meeting was just I've been through these for a long time, and it's usually just a walk through the park on getting the award, but I don't see why you would want to spend $181,000 more to get 2/3 of a job. Robinson Green and Beretta does not have any problem with my work. Last year I did for the Situate School Department a really aggressive schedule under terrible conditions with COVID, an HVAC project, and we passed that with flying colors. Tomorrow evening, I'll be on a Zoom meeting again for the town of Situate where Robinson Green and Beretta and your engineers on the same exact people are going to award me another school job for the town of Situate. I know the problem is not with Robinson Green and Beretta. You guys had a procedure that was flawed, and the school committee or the building committee, whoever that went to, got some bad information, and you guys wound up overpaying.
All right, Tim, you passed your 5 minutes. Gave you a little bit extra time to finish up, but Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of comments, and I don't want to belabor this because you do have all the detailed information in the packet. I would note that the deficiencies in Coin Mechanical's bid were in fact first pointed out in a memo by Robinson Green Beretta, who was in charge of the bid process. So that's how these issues came to light in a memo from RGB. The other thing I would point out, and Mr. Coin is correct in that his bid was the lowest in terms of dollar number, that it was not, the school committee was not able to fully analyze that bid because of the deficiencies in the material that was provided. But once again, failure to meet that 10% minority business enterprise would disqualify the town from 35% reimbursement of the total project cost, which is a much larger number than the numbers that Mr. Coin is talking about. So once again, I think this was reviewed by the school department's attorney, by my office, as well as our outside construction counsel, and all came to the same conclusion that the school department's decision was justified based on all the evidence.
Yeah, so that's your opinion?
That is my opinion.
Okay. So you're looking for us tonight to just uphold the
That's my recommendation. If the decision is up to the council under the ordinances, the council makes a determination on all bid protests. So it would be appropriate for the council to vote if you don't have any other questions.
I mean, I don't have any questions. I think I heard what Mr. Coin said. Based on the facts we have in front of us, it didn't meet the criteria. He's saying he brought stuff to the meeting. They're saying he didn't. So, I mean, either you did or you didn't. And based upon what we have and based upon your opinion, I think we stay the course. So, do you need that in the form of a vote?
So what you should do is, since we always vote on these things in the affirmative, someone should make a motion to sustain the bid protest. And if you're in favor of Mr. Coin's position, you would vote aye.
Yes.
If you are in favor of
You vote no.
school committee's decision, you would vote nay.
Vice President.
Motion to sustain the bid protest from Coin Mechanical, Inc.
We have a motion and a second to sustain the bid process from Coin Mechanical, Inc.
Could I
Yes, I am.
clarify?
Yes, ma'am.
So I think the verb sustain is throwing me off. So when you're sustaining the, that means is that upholding or you're opposing?
If you sustain the bid protest, you are agreeing with Coin Mechanical that they should be awarded the contract.
Oh.
If you vote nay, then you are affirming the decision of the school committee.
sustaining the protest is agreeing with Mr. Coyne.
Yes. It has to be in the affirmative. All motions have to be in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Opposed. Okay. Thank you, Tim. Okay, so let's move on to number 26. Memorandum of Town Planner, this is Town Administrator business. Reference to contract extension recommendation, MIDD-020-005, CDBG Community Development Block Grant Administration.
Motion received said memorandum.
Second?
We have a motion, a second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then we'll move right on to 27, have discussion, okay? 27, resolution of the council in reference to authorizing the finance director to execute contract extension recommendation, MIDD-020-005, Community Development Block Grant Administration.
Motion pass said resolution.
Second?
We have a motion, a second, discussion. Okay,
I got just.
Dennis.
It was quite a document. There's a lot,
Oh, you
a
think?
lot of
You
detail in
think?
there. It's unbelievable. Sean, can you maybe just give us a very quick overview? This is a service that we use on a regular basis. You're happy with this service? You're recommending this extension?
I am. So I've worked with church community development since I was the finance director back in 2000. They not only help with accounting, but also all of the contract administration and meeting with the different people that apply for CDBG funding, not only in the annual program, but even recently, I don't think we've really talked about it, but we received a $275,000
Yeah.
grant for
The air
air
conditioning.
conditioning and HVAC, filtering system for the senior centers. So they are extremely helpful, not only to me, the finance director,
Yep.
but also the planner. So it's well worth the money. The work itself is funded from the program. So this is not a taxpayer type issue. And again, as Dennis pointed out, the contract is pretty extensive on what they're required to do. And that represents that they have to keep on top of the federal regulations with each one of these contracts as they come out. So I wholeheartedly recommend that you approve that, this agreement this evening.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
President?
Yes, ma'am.
So I believe on the very last two pages, unless I'm reading it wrong, and maybe Mr. Brown, you could double check this, but I think on the last two pages of that grouping of that document, it actually says how much the awards that we have been getting, what the influx of money for projects have been in the town. It's a memo dated May 17th from church community to the town planner. And on the second page of that 3-page memo, which is the last 3 pages of the big package, there's a listing of recipients and amounts and open at current activities. So based on their $11,000 or $12,000 that they're getting a year, I think that the return on investment is pretty good.
Yep. Terry, I agree with you.
If I read it correctly, I was looking for.
I just want that documented. Okay. So we have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Number 28, memorandum of finance director through town administrator in reference to janitorial and maintenance services for municipal buildings, bid MIDD-021-005.
Motion received said memorandum.
Second?
We have a motion, a second to receive. All in favor? Aye. Number 29, resolution of the council, reference to award of contract for janitorial and maintenance services for municipal buildings, bid MIDD-021-005.
Motion pass said resolution.
Second?
Discussion. Does anybody have any discussion on this? Mrs. Flynn?
Yeah, so this was curious to me, and I'll just recap the information I got from Mr. Brown, because you recall that in our previous years, we've had a local company that has serviced us for years. Great to support the local company. And I guess they had a 1-year extension. And once you have a contract and all the possible extensions that are written into the contract end, you have to go out to bid. That's what you must do. And so we had to go out to bid, and there were 2 respondents, and somebody else was lower. So as much as I hate not to support the local company, we're forced to take the lower bid, and that's how we have this resolution in front of us today.
Yes. Okay. Any further
The
discussion?
process.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of savings compared to the other bid as well, So, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, boards and committees, communication of Middletown Public Schools Building Committee in reference to requesting the Middletown Town Council to appoint a town council member and alternate to the Middletown Public Schools Building Committee.
Motion to receive said communication.
Second,
The motion is second to receive. All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay.
Motion to appoint myself to the Public School Building Committee and Council Logan as the alternate.
second.
Motion to appoint Councilor Welch to the public,
It's fine.
to the Public Schools Building Committee, and Councilor Logan is an alternate. You guys are okay with that?
Yeah.
I think you'd be good on it. I really do. So
Dynamic duo.
I appreciate,
Dynamic duo.
All you need is the yes. Okay, so, motion to appoint, we have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you guys for stepping up. Number 31, memorandum of myself in reference to resignation from the Pension Trust Committee.
Motion to receive said resignation.
Second,
And the reason is it's just more of scheduling, and my schedule does not fit at all to this at all for when they meet. So otherwise I'd be glad to do it. So motion is second to accept resignation. All in favor? Aye. Number 32, council president's appointment to the town council representative to the Pension Trust Committee.
Motion to appoint Council Von Villas to the Pension Trust Committee.
second.
I think she'll do an excellent job, and thank you for stepping up, Mrs. Vaughn. Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Number 33, discussion of summer schedule with current dates, July 6, 2021. That's Tuesday, rather, July 6, 2021, because of the holiday.
It's
July 4th.
11 o'clock.
Monday, thank you. Monday, July 19th, 2021, Monday, August 2nd, 2021, and Monday, August 16th, 2021. So in the past, for the new councilors, typically what was done was one meeting on July, one meeting in August. And then what it evolved to was the first meeting in July, the last meeting in August, so that you'd get kind of a break, from the summer. And that's good. That's the pro of it. The con of it is that when you come back, your docket's 60 items or 50 items. So it's up to you, but whatever you guys choose to do with the pleasure of the council, I'm up for it either way.
Comment?
Yes, ma'am.
I wouldn't mind going back to the practice of the first in July and the last in August, only because, last July we were doing budget, and we were doing a slew of special meetings at the beginning of this year and just finished a pretty crazy budget cycle. So I think I would be open to trying that schedule. And there are those meetings, in August, September, they're pretty full, granted, but it's kind of worth it.
Okay.
But that's my 2 cents.
Maybe, could we add maybe that if we do that, maybe we start the meeting at, an hour earlier so that we can get through the docket. We're not here forever.
So what happens during executive?
I don't know. Good
So you
question.
say 6 o'clock instead of 7.
If on,
Mr. President,
yes, ma'am.
if I could be so bold to offer maybe a solution for executive session that, it's just us and the attorney and Sean, maybe we could have a Zoom call if we needed to get something done in executive session. The public doesn't, attend. And we just have a separate meeting like we did with the, when In December, we did that on the, I think, the 17th.
Zoom calls are coming to an end, hopefully.
Well, understood. Just a suggestion if it's,
Yeah, no, I
if it's
appreciate
still
it,
going
Terry.
on.
I appreciate it. I think let's just keep it at 7 and we'll go from there. Council Welch.
Yes.
What's your preference on the meeting schedule?
I would like Mrs. Santos and Mrs. Von Villas to each pick one, and that's what we do.
Okay. He wants you and Mrs. Santos. What's your preference, Mrs.
pick
Vaughn?
one.
I like what was offered. Yes.
Like what Terry offered? Okay.
No, what was offered here. I like, I don't know what she offered.
Oh, you like what those are the regular meeting dates?
What was proposed, yeah.
No, she's just putting what the dates are for, it's all up for discussion. That's not what's proposed. What she put on there is the regular meeting date, so we could all see what they were and when they were.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's try this side of the room. Council Logan.
I'm going to support Terry's recommendation
Okay.
for the first meeting in July
Okay.
and the last meeting in August.
Excellent. Council Toronto.
Well, being through this, I thought we took too much time off. Actually, we're only there for a short period of time. And we got backlogged and we got pushed back. And I'd say we meet July 6th, then we meet on the 19th, and we meet on the 2nd, and we meet on the 16th of August.
Okay.
I didn't hear her. But she wanted to cut to 2 meetings, right? July
Yes.
and 1 in August. And what I said was, I like what's on the.
Okay. Very good, Mrs. Santos.
Okay, July the 6th, no problem. If we have a problem, then we go July 19th. If not, we stay July 6th only. In August, we have a meeting in August. If we have a problem, then we have August 16th. Only if we have a problem to make 2 meetings in a month.
Well, I think we need to see what the administrator needs.
Sean Brown.
In terms of what's going to be on.
What's coming down the line? Oh, Wendy. Wendy would know. What do the dockets look like?
I can't hear Wendy.
I am going to be advertising for the marijuana ordinance.
Oh.
the school array
Keep the meetings.
ordinance.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to advertise until I knew what you were doing.
Okay.
And licenses. Yeah, there's some licenses that we're advertising for too.
And a very long meeting on the rules of the council.
Yes.
Okay.
I've changed my mind. We need
Okay.
to have all 4 meetings.
Okay.
We need to get in front of that ordinance.
Okay.
You can always cancel one depending on.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Santos.
Mr. Brown, when do you anticipate the council meetings being open and everybody here
To the public.
to the public?
That is a daily discussion with the state for both Wendy and I. It's unknown.
I'm sorry?
It's unknown. The state has to make that decision. There are advocates for getting everybody back into the public space, and there are advocates for building not, basically a hybrid space that we're operating in now, which has a very costly price tag to set all of this up so it can be operated at numerous locations all the time. So I'm willing to guess that by the time the General Assembly gets out, because of the cost associated with having hybrid meetings, that we're back in the regular meeting mode. That's my forecast.
I'm thinking the same thing, and we should know, like, as of June 25th, that's when
Yeah,
this
that's what I
last
thought.
Yep.
extension.
Okay.
ends.
So if they say everybody can come back in, that's it? Okay.
No more Zoom.
Okay.
That's off.
That's right.
Okay. So
Mr.
everybody wants to keep the 4 meetings for now.
Mr. President,
Yes,
question
ma'am.
for Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, the meeting schedule, I know that you are having some time off coming up. Do any of these fall in the dates that you would be gone?
Yes.
Perfect.
Which ones
Go
are the?
enjoy yourself.
Yeah, take some time off with no emails.
I'll answer for you.
Or I'll zoom in if we're still zooming, but no. No, whether it's Ron or Chief Cure, plenty of people have filled in. and-
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Good
Very
point. Good
good.
point, though.
Yep.
Okay. Very good.
Okay, Thomas?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned, guys. Long agenda, tough meeting, lively discussion. Thank you very much. All the counselors for your input. Sean, you and your staff, Wendy and Karen. And our videographer. I guess that's a word. I don't know. Motion is in a second to adjourn. I know what her name is. Grace. All in favor?
Aye.
Grace.